And welcome to our Freight Street headquarters for the time being, but tonight's Pawtucket City Council meeting. Before we get into the meeting, we have a few pre-council matters to address. The first is the appointment of Robert E. Benson to the Pawtucket Water Supply Board. Mr. Benson, I know you're here. Could you come forward, please? How are you?
Very well, and yourself?
Good, thank you. I can think of no one who knows the ins and outs of the Water Supply Board any better. I think we're making good use of your talents, and the mayor's made a wise suggested appointment. So if you might want to, for those who don't know as much about you, give us a brief overview.
Did everybody get a copy of my resume that I submitted to the mayor?
We would have gotten in our packet, yes. Yes,
Okay. Obviously, you can see I have
online. There's a link.
over 40 years financial experience between private industry, public accounting, and the last 18 years of my working career as the chief financial officer for the Pawtucket Water Supply Board. And that was, the job was created in 2004, and I was the first appointee back in January 2005. So as I learned and gained a complete understanding of the water utility industry, and as the chief financial officer, I also had to learn and understand the roles from a regulatory side of the industry, and that's over 200 monthly meetings that I attended, seeing the responsibilities of a board member, and I think I'm well prepared to handle those responsibilities.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Benson?
Not a question. I just want to say thank you for stepping up. I've served with you on the Pawtucket Water Supply Board. You're extremely knowledgeable. You're just gonna, it's gonna be a really good addition for having you there with all your, your experience and your legacy knowledge over there. So, and I know you work well with Mike, who is the, chief financial guy there now. And yeah, this is great.
Great addition.
Yeah, Mike's a great guy. So congratulations and thank you for stepping up. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. After 18 years, and you don't want to walk away, but
Right.
there's a great use of those skills.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Benson, we always have great conversation. You always provide great insight on so many topics in the city. So I welcome you. I thank you, and thank you for continuing your service.
Thanks for the comments, and I'm looking forward to it.
We appreciate your willingness to help, Bob.
You're welcome.
Best of luck.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a very special guest who's visiting Pawtucket, the mayor of our sister city in Columbia, Arjona, Gustavo Perez Giraldo. Did I get that right? Mr. Mayor,
And the senior
And his-
and a senior advisor, Marlon Contreras. And I believe Mayor Grebian is here as well. Yes, Mayor? If you'd like to come forward. Mayor, how are you? Welcome.
Bienvenidos.
We have a resident celebrating your attendance here tonight. Mayor, how are you? First, we'll read this resolution. For the rest
A lot of translating.
Council President doesn't want to have to read the names and get them wrong. He wants me to do that.
Right.
And don't forget, and don't be afraid to correct me if I don't get them right, because he didn't tell me I was going to be doing this. So. Whereas the city of Pawtucket is proud to welcome those individuals who represent an area of the world where their history, traditions, and values are forever linked to those of Pawtucket. And whereas such a person is Gustavo Perez Giraldo, who along with senior advisor Marlon Contreras is visiting Pawtucket from Arjona, Colombia, where he is serving his municipality with distinction as mayor. And whereas we in Pawtucket have come to know Arjona as a beautiful and enchanting municipality with gracious and friendly residents who have shown us great hospitality when we have visited them and are a pleasure to host whenever they have visited us. And whereas the twinning of Pawtucket and Arjona has been and continues to be a cause of great pride and distinction for the residents of our city. And whereas Arjona is well represented here in Pawtucket by Mayor Perez Geraldo and Mr. Contreras, two people who have dedicated themselves to improving the lives of those with whom they live and work. And whereas it is our hope that their visit to Pawtucket will be one that they will cherish as much as we will for a long time to come. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pawtucket City Council, at the request of Mayor Donald R. Grebian, on behalf of all our residents, does hereby welcome Mayor Gustavo Perez Geraldo and Senior Advisor Marlon Contreras to the city of Pawtucket and wishes them a wonderful visit to our city and the best of luck in all future endeavors. Signed by Mayor Donald R. Grebian and Terrence C. Mercer, Council President.
Sure.
Muy buenas noches para todos. Un saludo muy especial, presidente, a la mesa directiva, a los más honorables concejales. Un saludo especial también a todo el recinto que nos acompaña, al alcalde Donald.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Directors of the City Council of Pawtucket. I'm very pleased to be tonight here before you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address tonight.
Un agradecimiento muy grande de parte de mi pueblo, Arjona, Bolívar, Colombia, por esta hermandad que nos brinda el alcalde Donald y toda la comunidad de Pawtucket. Decirles que mi municipio también tiene las puertas abiertas para todos los ciudadanos de Pawtucket. Bienvenidos cuando quieran ir, con el mejor cariño, con el mismo que me han recibido aquí. Decirles que los llevamos en el corazón en Colombia, en Arjona, Bolívar. Muchísimas gracias.
I wanted to thank you, Mr. President, city councilors, and to everybody who welcomed me to the city of Pawtucket so greatly. I want to tell you that my city has open arms for you to visit us anytime you want to go. We would like to continue our partnership with the city of Pawtucket.
Gracias. Okay, that brings us to public input. My understanding is there's no one here that signed up for public input. There might be some folks who want to speak at the public hearing on the budget. And online, do we have anyone? Okay. In that case, we will move on to the Board of License Commissioners. The clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
Here.
Councilor Rujo.
Here.
Council Coder.
Here.
Council Gregor.
Here.
Council Moran.
Here.
Council Moreno.
Here.
Council Rubio.
Here.
Council Skobiak.
Here.
Council Wildenhain.
Here.
9 in attendance.
Mr. President, I'd like to call for approval of the previous minutes of May 7th, 2025.
Second. Moved by Councilor Rujo, second by Councilor Wildenhain, that approval be given to the minutes of the May 7th, 2025 meeting as prepared by the clerk. Are there any amendments, deletions, concerns, suggestions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I'd like to call for approval of number 2, the consent agenda, and number 3, petitions for licenses, starting with entertainment, a petition of Shree Studio, Service Corp. and Bach for a license to have a summer soiree, all the way down to the second page at the top, a Victorine House, first class new for Wise Guys Deli at 511 Broadway.
Moved by Councilor Rujo, second by Councilor Moreno, that approval be given to items 2 and 3, the consent agenda and petitions for license. Are there any petitions the members would like to address? Councilor.
Yes, the petition for renewal for Larry's Auto Repair, 519 Pawtucket Avenue.
Okay, we will take that one off. All in favor of approving items 2 and 3 with the exception of Larry's Auto Repair renewal for auto license -24-75. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Council, what would you like to do about Larry's Auto Repair?
Well, in regards to Larry's Auto Repairs, it's my understanding that he has a specific stipulation which requires him not to have any vehicles other than a tow truck parked on the lot of the property. And I've gotten several calls from people, and in fact, I drove past there yesterday, and you can't even see the parking lot. It's had over a dozen vehicles over there. So I'm just gonna ask that this be postponed and the owner be summoned to come and address the council regarding that matter.
The next council meeting?
Yes, if that's
Uh,
feasible.
The next council meeting, it's probably feasible. We're moving it up by 1 week because of budgeting purposes. What date is that, Rick? The 4th. Okay, so the first meeting of June will be fine with you, Counselor?
Yes.
Okay, in that case, the motion by Counselor Gregor, second by Counselor Codere, is that we postpone the renewal of Larry's Auto, Pawtucket, 519 Pawtucket Avenue, license number AUT-24-75, to have the license holder come in at the next meeting on June 4th to pursue the renewal and to address suggestions that he is not adhering to the stipulation on his license. Is there any discussion about that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item number 4, a petition for license, entertainment, and Class F beer and wine. A petition of Little Sisters of the Poor for a license to conduct a summer soiree, 3rd annual garden party, wine and food tasting fundraising event at 964 Main Street to sell beer and wine on Wednesday, August 13th, 2025, from 5:30 until 7:30. License number EBT 25-18. Motion to take up.
Moved by Counselor Ruja, second by Counselor Gregor, that we take up a petition of the Little Sisters of the Poor for a license to conduct a summer soiree, the 3rd annual garden party, wine and food tasting fundraising event at 964 Main Street to sell beer and wine on Wednesday, August 13, 2025, from 5:30 PM until 7:30 PM. It would be license number EVT-25-18. Is there any discussion on this petition for license?
I'd just like to comment that they've had this event for, I believe, a couple of years in a row. There's never been any issues. So
Yeah, I'd like to say the same thing. They've had this event for numerous years. So, yeah, we just need a motion to approve. Would you like to?
yes, I just motion to approve the petition.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Gregor, seconded by Counselor Arujo, that we approve the petition of Little Sisters of Poor to conduct a summer soiree on Wednesday, August 13th, from 5:30 PM until 7:30 PM. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item number 5, petition for license, entertainment, and Class F1 full privilege petition of Burbage Theater Company for a license to have Little MX Burbage Amateur Drag Pageant and to sell alcoholic beverages at 59 Blackstone Avenue on Saturday, June 7th, 2025, from 9:30 PM until 11:30 PM. License number EBT 25-20. Motion to take up.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Arujo, second by Counselor Moran, that we entertain a petition for an entertainment in Class F1 full privilege. The petition is from Burbage Theater Company for a license to have a Little MX Burbage Amateur Drag Pageant to sell alcoholic beverages at 59 Blackstone Avenue on Saturday, June 7th, 2025, from 9:30 PM until 11:30 PM. It would be license number EVT-25-20. Counselor Moran?
Mr. President, reviewed this. I don't have any issues with it, so I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor Moran, second by Counselor Rubio, that approval be given to the entertainment and Class F1 full privilege petition of Burbage Theater for June 7, 2025, from 9:30 PM until 11:30 PM. License number EVT-25-20. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 6, a petition for license, entertainment, and Class F1 full privilege petition of Aloha Restaurant Lounge for license to have a CV Heritage Color Festival and to sell alcoholic beverages at a festival pier, 21 Tim Healy Way, on Sunday, June 15th, 2025, from 3 PM until 9 PM. License number EBT 25-16. Motion to take up.
Been moved by
Second.
Counselor Ruzo, second by Counselor Kadia, that we take up a petition for an entertainment and Class F1 full privilege. The petition is from Aloha Restaurant Lounge for a license to have a CV Heritage Color Festival and to sell alcoholic beverages at Festival Pier at 21 Tim Hilly Way on Sunday, June 15, 2025, from 3 PM until 9 PM. Will be license numbers EVT-25-16. The motion is to take up. Counselor Codere. Is the petitioner here? Mr. Lopez, could you come up, please? Councilor Kadir.
Hello,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Lopez.
Mr. Lopez. We all know who you are, but could you just give your name and address to the
Yes,
clerk, please?
Adelino Lopez, 27 Whitman Street, Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, Mr. Lopez. I know that you've been doing this, this will be the second year or the third year. However, we tried to do it the past 2 years. And as you may know, my constituents are a priority. And I've been having a lot of phone calls when this music fest is going on in the park. Especially one of the buildings that I have there with people that need nurses, and the nurses are going in and out. And I've been having a lot of issue with the music after 7 p.m. The music fest there and that park hasn't been working very well for my constituents. At this moment, I don't think we can have this music fest right now. And I don't know if I can make a motion now or if someone else would like to ask any
So
questions.
it's not a public hearing, but are there any other members who would like to address this issue? And now would be a proper time to make a
Thank you, Mr.
motion.
President. Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to deny the petition of Aloha Restaurant Lounge to have the Heritage Color Festival, Art Festival appear on June 15.
Been moved by Councilor Codere, second by Councilor Ruja. Was that you, Councilor?
Yes.
That the petition of Aloha Restaurant Lounge for a license to have a CV Heritage Color Festival and sell alcoholic beverages at Festival Pier at Tim Hilly Way on Sunday, June 15th from 3 p.m. until 9 p.m. be denied. Is there any discussion on the motion to deny? Hearing on the clerk will call the roll. I'm sorry. We don't need a motion, right? All in favor of denial? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, Mr. Lopez.
Item number 7, petition for license entertainment.
Just a question.
Sure.
The question is, any other party is gonna happen again over there because the sound? Is my question.
I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to take those case by case when they come before us, and they'll have to get through the scrutiny of the district council.
All right, no problem.
Thank you. Item number 7, petition for license, entertainment and class F1 full privilege, petition of YB Marketing for license to have a Latino Summerfest and to sell alcoholic beverages at Festival Pier, 21 Tim Healy Way, on Sunday, August 2nd, 2025, from 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. License number EBT 25-22. My motion on this, I'm going to make a motion to postpone per the request of the district councilor.
Second.
Postponed until?
Until the
Postpone
next.
until the next meeting. Yes,
Next
sorry,
meeting.
next meeting.
Moved by Councilor Rujo, second by Councilor Codere, that we postpone a petition for an entertainment and class F1 full privilege from YB Marketing for a license to have a Latino Summerfest and to sell alcoholic beverages at Festival Pier on Tim Healy Way, Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, from 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. That's license number EVT-25-22. Again, the motion is to continue to the next meeting or postpone until the next meeting. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 8, petition for license, entertainment and expansion of premise 1 day. Petition from Fadijos Jababa for license to have St. Anthony's Fest and to serve alcoholic beverages at 682 Roosevelt Avenue, indoors and outdoors parking lot on Sunday, June 15th, 2025, from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. License number EBT 25-21. Motion to take up.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Ruzo, second by Counselor Moran, that we take up a petition for an entertainment expansion of premise for one day of Fidos de Barbara for a license to have a St. Anthony's Fest and to serve alcoholic beverages at 682 Roosevelt Avenue, indoors and outdoors in the parking lot. On Sunday, June 15, 2025, from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. It's licensed number EVT-25-21. The motion is to take up the petition. Counselor Moran.
Mr. President, Fijos Di Jaraba has had many events over the many years that I've been on the council, and I have never really had any problems with them. So I don't have a problem approving this, but I'll do the usual. I think I do this every year with the two stipulations. I will approve it. Number one, that all beverages be in plastic cups outdoors, and also that the area be cleaned up by the next day, which would be Monday, June 16th by 10 a.m. So motion to approve.
It's been moved by Counselor Moran, second by both Counselor Rougeau and Counselor Codier, that we approve a petition for a St. Anthony Fest to sell serve alcoholic beverages at 682 Roosevelt Avenue, indoors and outdoors in the parking lot on Sunday, June 15th from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. The motion contains two stipulations: that all beverages be served in plastic outside, no glassware, and that the parking lot be cleaned up no later than 10 p.m. the following day on June 16th. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve with the two stipulations?
10
Well,
a.m. the
What
next
would I
morning.
say?
You said 10 p.m.
Oh, 10 a.m., I'm sorry. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item number 9, petition for licensed entertainment and expansion of premise one day. Petition of Pico's Restaurant and Hookah Lounge for license to have spring cookout and day party and to serve alcoholic beverages at 110 School Street, indoors and outdoors parking lot on Sunday, June 8th, 2025, from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. That license number is EVT 25-19. Motion to take up.
Moved by Counselor Ruzo, second by
Second.
Counselor Codier, that we take up a petition for an entertainment and expansion of premise for one day of Pico's Restaurant and Hookah Lounge for a license to have a spring cookout and day party to serve alcoholic beverages at 110 School Street, indoors and outdoors in the parking lot on Sunday, June 8th, 2025, from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. It'd be license number EVT-25-19. Motion is to take up. Counselor Codier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was in communication with Pico's Restaurant, and they've been doing this outside on their patio and at the parking lot, and I would like to make a motion to approve.
Any further, been moved by Counselor Codier, second by Counselor Rubio. That approve be given to the petition of Pico's Restaurant and Hookah Lounge for a license to have a spring cookout and day party for a one-day expansion of premise on June 8, 2025, from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. The motion is for approval. Is there any discussion on that? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
No further business coming before the Pawtucket Board of License Commissioners. I move that we adjourn and reconvene as the Pawtucket City Council.
It's been moved by Counselor Rougeau and seconded by Counselor Gregor that we adjourn as the Pawtucket Board of License Commissioners and we convene as the Pawtucket City Council. Before we do, I ask that all would rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, started by Counselor Gregor. Yeah. The echo. Pawtucket City Council will come to order. Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer,
Here.
Council Ruzo,
Yeah.
Council Codier,
Here.
Council Gregor,
Here.
Council Moran,
Here.
Council Moreno,
Here.
Council Rubio,
Here.
Council Sokoviec,
Here.
Council Wildenhain.
Here.
9 in attendance.
Mr. President, I'd like to call the public hearing on the 2024 Pawtucket Central Falls Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan hearing to be convened.
Moved by Counselor Rougeau, second by Counselor Stacoviak, that we convene the public hearing regarding a resolution approving the 2024 Pawtucket Central Falls Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. I declare the public hearing open. Carl, if you'd come forward and quarterback this, please.
Thank you, Council President and members of the council. I come before you today with the resolution before you to approve the 2024-2025 Central Falls and City of Pawtucket Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is a 5-year plan. This is very unique to where the City of Central Falls and the City of Pawtucket have teamed up to complete this hazard mitigation plan. This plan was put together after several meetings, not only with city staff for both cities, several charrettes, online surveys, and other public meetings to gain input from all concerned to develop this plan. The plan was then forwarded to Rhode Island EMA and FEMA for approval, which they have done. So the final part of this process is to have a resolution signed by both city councils so they can complete the plan, and then we'll be eligible for any kind of grants to come up to identify anything that's been noted in the plan as a deficiency. If you have any questions, I'm
Thank
here.
you. Anyone have any questions for the director?
Carl, what meeting at Central Falls Council are they voting it on? Is it like this week too, or when would that be?
I'm not sure. I believe they may have already done so.
Okay.
This has been kind of lingering for us. So
Counselor?
I'm just curious, what prompted the joint city mitigation plan?
So what happened was it happened in 2018 before my time, but this actually the city of Central Falls was eligible for a grant to pay for the hazard mitigation plan to be composed, and we were allowed to team up with them. So it was quarterbacked through the city of Central Falls, but we completed the plan together. So it was no cost to the city to get this done.
I think the EMA director would like to weigh in, but if you just please come forward, sir. Welcome, Director.
Director, how are you?
Counselor, some years ago, 2015, Pawtucket and Central Falls started a program to try to share services between our two cities for financial reasons and resource reasons. So the former director put together a program for Pawtucket Central Falls to share emergency management services. And we've been doing that since then. The hazard mitigation plan is a requirement for FEMA under Code Federal Regulations number 44, which ties into the Stafford Act for funding for mitigation activities around the city, flooding, drainage. And when it happened in 2018, it was the first plan like it where it's a multi-jurisdictional plan. Most other states, except I think Connecticut, have county structures. We're the first one in the country to have two cities sharing a plan.
And thank you. I'm just out of curiosity, so it's fully funded for the next 5 year of the plan?
There was a grant given to redo this plan. It has to be done every 5 years. And what it does is it identifies hazards for both cities and outlines a plan to reconcile those, to make them either less harmful or eliminate them altogether. It doesn't fund anything. It gives FEMA the opportunity to, through certain hazard mitigation grant programs, to fund the projects that the planning department requests. Without it, it's hard to get.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for either director? Good job, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, do we leave this public hearing open? I recall a few years ago, people came into room 303 to discuss
That was a
things
different thing.
afterwards.
They came in here to introduce that they were going to do the
Yeah.
plan, and then they had a public meeting scheduled, one of the public meetings they needed, so they did it at 303 the same night.
Gotcha.
So it was a little different than what this is.
Okay, so this is, you gentlemen can both take a seat. Is there anybody else here to speak at this public hearing regarding the hazard mitigation plan? In that case, I will declare the public hearing closed and we will consider the next public hearing.
All right, Mr. President, next public hearing, a public hearing on the municipal budget. My motion is to convene this public hearing.
Been moved by Counselor Arujo, second by Counselor Wildenhain, that we convene a public hearing on the municipal budget for fiscal 2026. All in favor of convening the public hearing?
Aye.
Opposed? I will declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here who is here to speak on the city's municipal budget for fiscal 26? Mr. Beaupre, are you here for that? Please come forward.
Good evening.
State your name and address.
Ron Beaupre, 174 Armistice Boulevard, Unit C. I hope the people in the back can hear. This mic is much lower in volume than your mics back there. It's really hard to hear in the back. Good evening, President Mercer, honorable members of the City Council. My name is Ronald Beaupre. I am the president of the Pawtucket Teachers Alliance, representing the nearly 750 educators and support professionals serving the students in Pawtucket's public schools. I am also a fourth grade teacher at Agnes Little Elementary School. And I am a proud graduate of Pawtucket's public schools, Kirby McCabe, Goff, and Tolman. I rise this evening to advocate for, in my opinion, Pawtucket's most vital institution, Pawtucket's public schools. We all know that the strength of a city is reflected in the success of its schools. Our children are not just students. They are the future engineers, teachers, artists, entrepreneurs, and leaders of Pawtucket. But right now, they are being asked to succeed with fewer resources than they need and deserve. Let me be clear. Our educators are doing incredible work. Despite outdated facilities, limited support staff, and a lack of funding for essential programs, they show up every day with commitment, passion, and creativity. But good intentions alone can't fix the many issues facing our schools. Outdated facilities, overcrowded classrooms, the shortage of counselors and mental health professionals, and the increasing national teacher shortage. This is not just about test scores or rankings. It's about whether we as a city believe that every child, no matter their zip code, background, or family income, deserves a safe, supportive, and fully funded learning environment. It's also about the long-term health of our community. Studies show that strong public schools lead to lower crime rates, higher poverty values, and a stronger local economy. Investing in education is not a burden, it's a multiplier. Every dollar we put into our schools comes back to us in the form of a more skilled workforce, more engaged citizens, and a more vibrant city. I understand the budget is tight. Every department is doing more with less. But I also believe that if we are forced to make tough choices, our children must come first. They don't get a second chance at a good education. Are you aware that among Rhode Island's 36 school districts, the city of Pawtucket ranks 35 of the 36 districts in municipal funding, providing only 20% of the overall school department budget, leaving 80% to be funded by state aid and federal and other grant sources. Leaving out Central Falls, which is fully funded by the state, Pawtucket ranks last in second to last, in municipal education allocation among Rhode Island's urban core districts. Education no longer fits the industrial model of the 20th century. The world around us has changed, but education has largely remained stagnant. Our students should not be expected to be cogs in the machine producing people ready for the industrial workforce. Instead, we must pay attention to their growing needs, academically, behaviorally, socially, and emotionally in the 21st century society. While we cannot attribute this completely to funding, the lack of funding is certainly a major factor. So tonight, as this council considers the next budget for the city of Pawtucket, I respectfully urge you to go against the trend of the last 5 years of level funding and increase the municipal funding for the Pawtucket Public School Department. Let's give our students the resources they need to thrive, Let's give our teachers the support they deserve. And let's send a clear message that Pawtucket is a city that invests in the future. Thank you for your time, your leadership, your commitment to making Pawtucket a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beaupre. Okay, I saw a woman in about the third row. Did you want to speak, ma'am? And then next to her, did you want to speak, sir? Okay. Thank you. If you could just pull it down if it's more comfortable. Give your name and home address, please, to the clerk.
Yes, good evening. My name is Shara Plinton. My address is 278 Lafayette Street, Pawtucket, 02860.
Can you spell your name for me, please?
SHARAPLYNTON.
Ms. Clinton, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. First, I want to thank you for holding space for public comment tonight and for the important work that you do every day for our city. My name is Shara Plinton. I'm a proud resident of Pawtucket, and I've served as a school social worker in this city for over 20 years. Currently, I work at Shea High School. We serve approximately 800 students. Tonight, I'm here to speak from my heart and from the front lines about why your support for increasing the school district's budget by $2 million is not just needed, it's urgent. Let me be clear, school social workers are not extra. We are essential. We're licensed clinical mental health professionals, often the only ones our students will ever have access to. We're trained to provide counseling, crisis intervention, and risk assessments. When a student is in emotional distress, threatening self-harm, or shows up after witnessing violence at home, we are often the first and only lines of support. But our work isn't limited to emergencies. Every day we counsel students battling depression, anxiety, grief, and trauma. We help them regulate their emotions, rebuild trust, and re-engage in school. We support students with IEPs, providing federally mandated counseling services. And this is little known, but for these services, we bill Medicaid, bringing reimbursement dollars directly back into the district. So we're both a service and a revenue source. That means when we do our jobs, the district gets money back. So we're bringing dollars into the system while providing critical care. That's rare, that's valuable, and that is exactly the kind of investment we should be expanding, not neglecting. So here's the challenge. There are simply not enough of us. While we're obligated to support special education students, we also serve the entire student body. With current staffing levels, we're stuck in triage mode every day. We're juggling impossible caseloads. We're trying to make sure no student falls through the cracks. The student to social worker ratios in the school district of Pawtucket are inequitable, they're unsustainable, and frankly, they are unjust. We also wear many hats. We're part of the team combating chronic absenteeism in our school district. So when a student stops showing up for school, we don't just mark them absent, we show up at their doors. We make home visits, we build trust with families. And more than once, we have brought kids back to school who otherwise would have been lost to the system. That's not theory, that's what I did last week. This work is personal, it's also deeply structural. And right now we are stretched too thin to do this work the way that our kids of Pawtucket deserve. If we want a safer, healthier, more engaged school environment, then we need to invest in the people who are already doing that work every single day. That's what this 2 million could help make possible. Thank you for your time, your service, and you're willing to invest in Pawtucket and the future of Pawtucket's children.
Thank you, Ms. Plimpton, and thank you for your service. So before we take the next speaker, I just want to clarify a little bit of misinformation that's out there. We are not entertaining a $2 million number in this budget. $2 million was the ask of the school department when they got their budget to the mayor 2 or 3 weeks too late. They're supposed to get their budget to the mayor for him to be able to bake it into the overall budget. What we're deliberating tonight is the presented budget by the mayor, which is proposing for the first time ever in city history for us to surpass the municipal cap. Built within that is $500,000 to the schools. So I don't want anybody out there to misunderstand, even though the misunderstanding has been advanced by the school department, by the school committee. But just wanted to know that there is no $2 million number. If there were, we'd all love to give it out. But this is already a matter of us, for the first time in city history, exceeding the 4% municipal cap solely with a $500,000 number built in there. So I don't want anybody to have any misapprehension about what it is this body will be deliberating on afterwards. So with that, sir, if you come forward, is there anybody else? I'm not trying to limit, I'm just trying to see if there's anybody else who wants to go up and speak. Thank you. Sir, if you could also give your name and home
Sure.
address, please.
Can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Justin Royas. I live at 35 Smart Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02904.
Okay, can you spell your last name for me,
Yep,
please?
Roias. What's that? Okay. Good evening, council members. Thank you for holding this hearing and thank you for your continued leadership and service to the city. My name is Justin Royas. I'm also a licensed school social worker in the Pawtucket School Department. And as you clarified, I am, whether it's 2 million or in a significant increase from $500,000, I'm simply here to state that we should be increasing that certainly past $500,000. And this would allow the district to hire more social workers for our students. This year, I've been split between 3 schools: Shea High School, where I work alongside my colleague Shara, who just spoke before me, as well as Phoenix Academy, and now Agnes Little Elementary School. I want to begin by echoing everything that Shara just said. She painted a clear, data-informed picture of what our work looks like day to day and how school social workers are both a vital service and a direct source of revenue through Medicaid billing. What I'd like to do is take you into the heart of our work, sort of the emotional core of it, because behind every statistic is a student, a family, a moment of crisis, and a human being carrying that weight. This year has been pretty heavy for us at Shea. We've recently lost one of our students to gun violence. That's a young life full of potential gunned down in our community. That loss didn't just touch one student and sent shockwaves through the entire school. Shara and I, along with our support staff, had to mobilize quickly to provide grief counseling to students and staff alike, many of whom were seeing this kind of loss up close, a pain that's unfortunately become tragically routine. We sat with students in a state of shock, crying, shutting down, unable to find words, and we supported staff who were doing their best to hold space for others while struggling to carry their own pain. And just 1 week later, I was called to Agnes Little Elementary to support a second grader whose father had just been killed, also by gun violence. The child's mother was left in critical condition. I sat with this child, trying to help them make sense of a world that had just changed forever. But I wasn't just supporting the student, I was helping their teacher, the classroom, and staff who were heartbroken and overwhelmed by the sheer weight of it all. When these tragedies happen, we clear our schedules as social workers. We show up, but the truth is the caseload doesn't go away. The need doesn't pause. We pivot to crisis response, and then we scramble to catch up, trying to make sure that no one else falls through the cracks while we're attending to the students right in front of us. That's the impossible math we do every day because the needs keep growing, but the number of social workers does not. And I'll be honest with you all tonight, to show up in this space and try to explain what we do, to try to paint a picture compelling enough to prove we're worthy of increased investment after spending a day sitting in rooms full of sorrow, fear, and confusion, after walking with kids through the unimaginable. It's exhausting and emotionally taxing. But we're here not because we're heroes worthy of praise, but because our students matter that much. And I say all of this not only as a school social worker, which is the role I speak to you from tonight, but also as someone who understands your side of the table. Outside of my work in schools, I also serve as a Providence City Councilor. In fact, I just came from a committee meeting before arriving here. So I say this with full awareness and respect and love. I understand the pressure you're under. I know what it's like to weigh every dollar in a budget that has to stretch across every corner of the city. Public safety, infrastructure, recreation, sanitation, and yes, education. But I also know this, education isn't just another line item. And as cliche as this may sound, it truly is the heartbeat of a city's future. And within that, school social work is the connective tissue, the thing that keeps vulnerable students grounded, supported, and quite frankly, and I say this without exaggeration, literally alive. And so thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for believing that what happens inside our schools is just as important as anything happening outside of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to speak or offer public comment? I see none. Anybody online?
If you are here to speak in this public hearing, can you please press the raise hand button at this time? I see no hands.
In that case, I will declare the public hearing closed, and Council Ruja, I'll entertain a motion to recess.
I make a motion to recess the public hearing on the municipal budget.
Moved by Councilor Rujo, second by Council Moreno and Council Willenhand, that we recess the Pawtucket City Council meeting at 7:40 in order to convene a joint meeting of the Finance Committee and the Committee of the Whole in the committee room. So we will stand, all in favor of recessing? Aye. Opposed? We will stand recessed.
Joint committee of.
We have to leave it open.
You gotta leave it open. Leave it open.
Yeah.
Meeting in progress coming in, if you got a crowd out there, then you gotta keep it open so those people out there can hear.
We don't have time.
Michelle's telling him it's not executive session now. One.
So you gotta check that, but that's not. Dante, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yep.
Okay, thank you. I call a meeting of the Joint Finance Committee and the meeting of the whole to order. Clerk call roll. President Mercer.
Yes.
Yeah. Deruja.
Yeah.
Council Collier.
Here.
Council Brennan. Here. Council Moran.
Here.
Council Moreno. Here. Council Rubio.
Here.
Council Stoviak.
Here.
Council Wilson. Here. 9 in attendance for the committee of the whole, 3 in attendance for the finance committee. Council Rubio, number 1.
Item number 1, annual operating budget ordinance 2025 through 2026. I move to take this up.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Rubio, seconded by Councilor Moran, that we take up the annual operating ordinance for 2025 to 2026. All those in favor?
Aye.
Getting started off, I asked at the budget workshop that if anybody had anything, that they should get it to me by Tuesday. There were nobody had any substantive changes that they really wanted to recommend. So over the weekend, I did some work. Our major charge was to get to the 4% cap. And with the structure that was given to us in our tab, it was number 5, because non-owner occupied was approved by the state. So the mayor does have permission to create another.
I think it passed the Senate and has now been transferred to the House. The House, it hasn't fully passed. That's what we're doing today. So
The Senate version has passed the Senate, is in the House. The House version passed the committee meeting, the committee of the House yesterday. It'll go to the floor of the House, and then it will go to the Senate. And then they get a vote and approve each other's bill.
So fully expected it to pass.
Correct, yeah. So that'll be that'll be in addition to what's already being put on to the taxpayers, which at this point, it leaves us, in order to get down to the cap, it leaves us with a 2.5533373 number to get to. That's a number I worked on all weekend to try to figure out how to get to. I want to thank Councilor Mercer and Councilor Ruggio for meeting with the school department and trying to come to some conclusion to help us get relief with that number. We weren't successful, and at that point, it left us with, from my standpoint, whatever we could do to turn around and get that number down so that we don't go over the cap. My major concern, and while it is with going over the cap becomes repetitive, we're doing that. Once we stop doing something, then it should seem to become old habit that we do it every year. I don't want to get into that. So for that reason, I'm going to put out a proposal to try to get us down to that number. It's not a popular one, especially with what we listened to in the other room. And one of the things that I think I want to point out from listening in there, I've been here 15 years, but I get so tired of hearing people tell us that we didn't give them money. We give $32 million to the schools every year. And for people to come in here and tell us that we aren't funding them appropriately, when somebody is sitting on $15 million surplus, well, then maybe they need to address it with their school committee on how they spend their money more wisely versus coming to us who, in my estimation, and I've always said this, we don't pay school revenue over here. School paycheck or payroll things. So I ended up making a choice to cut the $500,000 out. And that brings the mayor's projected budget line from $33,305,937 to $32,805,937, which is exactly what people have stated in the other room is our maintenance of effort. Understand there's something too. Maintenance of effort for this council and for the councils that I've been on have paid 100% over the years. We've made that commitment to continue to fund education to that point. And people constantly turn around and make that sound like it's just trivial, that we don't take that seriously. We take it very seriously. In the past, we were allowed to reduce our maintenance of effort by 95%, which would raise $1.64 million, making the new funding number $31,165,640.20. Once again, I know it's not a popular idea, but I'm looking at any avenue that gets us to the 4%, so that we aren't reaching into taxpayers' pocket to turn around and try and pay our bills. That total appropriation comes to 2.140965. Trust me, I won't like telling you these numbers as much as you guys listen to it. But it needs us to have an additional revenue cut of $393,076.15, which in turn, I made some reductions in information technology, planning, uniform police, uniform fire, highway, street cleaning and snow, and personnel. I made those deductions in the total of $393,076. That would get us to the 2.533373 that we need, plus the 10% owner occupied would get us to the 4% cap on the levy. While I know it's not popular, I wasn't here to put things in that are popular. I was here to put in things that are practical. And I also want to reiterate something that was said at our workshop. The CEFO of the school made mention that any monies that was appropriated to them, RIDE made the recommendation that they put that money in their reserves. So he's asking us to take money out of our taxpayers' pocket, so our bank account, so that he can put it into their bank account. I'm very disappointed that we couldn't come to the table, and I've got other comments that will elaborate that later on as we move through this budget session. But I just wanted to, that would be a motion that I put out to turn around and amend the mayor's proposal. If I'm successful, that's fine. If I'm not, I don't try to obstruct me. I'm just trying to give out solutions. As chairman of finance, I think that was part of my responsibility. I think that was part of the responsibility of the committee. And I applaud the committee for the time that they put in and try to resolve this. Council Rubio and I have talked. But and Council Moran has been here far longer than I have. And God only knows why. But these are the tough decisions. And again, I've heard the people in the other room, and while I feel bad for them, I think one of their overriding tones was the lack of funding. Well, how are they not being funded when somebody's sitting on $15 million? Then spend the money that we allocate for you, and then when it's gone, then come back to us and have a discussion. But they're not doing that. They want us to give them money to turn around and put into their reserves. They're not trying to put more social workers in place and stuff. This is what I heard. This is why I'm bringing up this proposal. So with that, I'll open it up to anybody else in the community that has any concerns or.
Are there any strings attached to that? We had talked earlier about that 5%. You want to check into whether there was strings attached.
I did. Under Chapter 16, it states that we were allowed to do it back in 2011 and 2010 and 2011. Whether or not we can still do it, I'm not completely sure, but there are other equations if we look at them, but frankly, we don't have the time to look at them now. School enrollment since 22 has dropped down 634 with the numbers that I was provided with from 22 to now. So there is an equation that if we wanted to go through the motions, then we could turn around and drop we could drop this funding down based on per student that they've lost. I'm not interested in going there at this point. So,
the motion is to move the 500,000
correct.
And reduce that effort by 5%, which is like 1.64.
Yes.
And then the 390 change you will come up with.
I'll pass these out now, so it makes you look sorry. I'm sorry. I mean,
I'm like,
Oh, that one. I got all in my head.
I'm visual.
yeah, I think he said he put it right here. He said it all down.
Just give me the whole packet.
I kind of figured you were.
Again, I ended up researching Title 16 and seeing what we could do, this is an effort to get to the cap. And that simply is going to be the motion that I make out on the floor.
You're not making a motion here. Correct. You're comfortable, so when we come out of here, sometimes we have recommendations. Sometimes we don't. So you're suggesting that the only recommendation of the finance committee. Correct. Is there anybody else here that has other proposed amendments? Councilor Rubio.
I personally don't feel comfortable removing $500,000 from their school budget or removing an additional $1.64 million for maintenance of effort.
That's still going to be a motion. Discussing on how.
But is there another option we can look into?
I don't see any at this
I looked
point.
at it, you're talking about $2.14 million. Where in this budget do you think you'll find
Not-
another $2.14 million?
But even if we're rising the tax levy appropriately, in addition to possibly being able to fund the school.
But this is all in an effort not to rise above the levy. That's what this effort is about.
So this motion, like.
If
motion is the only viable fiscal way to get below the cap. Get to 4% or 3.999. This is the only, the other ones, I guess you could do, but the two big chunks, that is a dead certain fact. That to get there, those are the only two numbers that should get you within closing distance. But that's only if our goal is to be below the cap. Right? If we're going to go above the cap, only two people here have to say no. And it doesn't happen. That's why the original attempt is to, let's see if we can get someplace where only 5 of us have to do. Right? So that approving council Wilbur Haynes out there, approving his proposed amendment.
As it is, so
would pass
this is what we're
five-
voting for,
would-
his proposal.
When he makes that motion out there and gets a
Correct.
second, we need to vote on that.
Okay.
A vote of 5 yeses passes.
Mhm.
Right?
I follow.
And then we're pretty much done. Right?
And if it doesn't?
If it doesn't, then our next option, we have now have a discussion about going above the cap. But we have to then understand that it takes a minimum of 8 of us to surpass the cap by a nit. Right? So there'll probably be dual amendments out there. If this one passes, we're done. Right? You know, one side of it, and this we have done our duty in taxpayers. We have not exceeded the cap. We have abided by their wishes to fund $18 million in construction. That chews up about 90% of our cap to the 4 million, 4 point whatever, right? So, that passes, we can look at it that we've done our duty for the tax. On the other hand, if it doesn't pass and we're in front of us surpassing the cap, then we have to then say, are we doing what's best for the taxpayers? Do we roll by exceeding and doing this? Because if we don't exceed the cap, every bit of tax increase is going to be estimates. So everything above that, 500 for schools, this much for DPW, this much for IT, that all leads up to 16.34.
Yeah. You know,
I'm sorry.
3.93.
6.9. Right. 3.9. So that's our task. Right? That's our task is always, are we collectively philosophically opposed to surpassing the cap? Or are we not so philosophically opposed, but then to what level do we? And we can only surpass the cap of 8. So that's kind of where we are.
Councilman Moran.
I just, since Tracy, what's the administration's position on this particular proposal? Any input on it?
On the one that's being put
The one
right now?
that council will make proposal.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say on the administration side, I mean, a 1.6 spot on our city side, it's gonna be brutal. I think operations, I'm personally a little nervous just to see how we're gonna get through the next year. Especially when we talk about DPW, who's been an extremely busy department over the last few years. How do we turn around and say, you know, can't complete these services because we're under capacity or we don't have staffing? So just hearing the 1.6, I'm just here holding my hands tight, and I'm like, well, if it happens, it happens, but you know, it would put the administration at very extremely tight.
The 1.6 is coming from.
Yeah, the 1.6 is, it's 393 coming from you guys.
Only 393 for you.
So 5% of the school.
Oh,
budget.
yeah.
The 2.1, the 2.1
Yeah.
would leave me at a 393,000.
Yeah.
That is the change that we would have to put on the city side
Yeah.
in order to accomplish what we're looking for.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, for us, it's, you know, whatever we keep as is just what will give us I would say solidified budget that gets us to where.
But what's your position on the going to 95% reduction for the maintenance of effort for the school? What's the administration's opinion on that?
So I'd say right now we put in like 500. I think that was our contribution. I think that's where we landed on our side.
Councilor?
Yeah, I'm just curious, how much debt service is going to things other than school construction?
So it's in the 23 million or so, 18 of that is school construction. So the roads, from bonds for roads, highway devices.
We usually do 3 million in bonds for roads every year. Other than that, we have bands out there for 20 million right now, I believe, no, 40. I think it's 40. And they're looking to do more projects with the money that's already been approved, so they're looking to do that in October-ish. So we did budget for a little bit of debt service increase for that. 400,000, don't quote me, I don't remember.
Was I right that 23 and 18 are
Yes,
roughly numbers?
yes.
So we're paying 23 million
just this year.
debt service. Yes. There is a potential for that.
Decrease, right?
Potential next year that will come down slightly, but a little bit more than slightly. That's maybe 4 million.
Slightly, but they just told us today that they're gonna need more money by January. The school department.
For the high school.
For the high school.
So see where we are, right? The max cap increase takes care of only debt service that we are obligated to pay. If we vote on that, we might as well put it in, right? So we've got to pay that. Now the question is, do we want to raise taxes to pay for other things?
If I may, yes, and it's my understanding that, you know, it was somewhere around 11 million in paying and whatever the state gives back with the reimbursement. We're about 6 million in change for schools out of pocket net, right? And then that's about, if I'm correct, when I look at the numbers, we're looking at maybe over $4 million, maybe 4.7, 4.6 of an increase for school debt service alone this year, correct?
Yes.
About 4.7. So the increase of money, budgetary money for the school projects has increased from this last fiscal year to the next fiscal year by 4,700,000 for schools. And that's what puts us in this, that's the increase from what we did last year. Because we put in some money, we get some reimbursement back, and then that's what we have to pay. Am I correct with that statement?
Yeah.
So that's the increase we had in school debt service this year, which, by the way, with the reimbursement rate, I did, and for the health and safety of the employees and students and citizens, I always got it, you know, so it's almost like, you know, we had to increase it, but it's like, you know, almost like personal, you know, credit card, when the store, you buy something, you enjoy it for, and then next month, the bill comes in, right? This is the bill, it just happens to be higher because more projects are going on, and more projects that we completed, and that's where we are.
If I may, what is the cost to a household with the top levy increase?
6.36.
That's in your group.
Yeah.
It just, I don't have my.
I have it.
Over there.
I can pull it up.
If we went to.
If we went to
As
the,
proposed.
as proposed, what is the increase household wise?
Non-owner occupied rate would be 214.
I'm sorry?
Non-owner occupied rate would be increased by 214.
That's
which
what, a
is-
couple $100, $300, $400?
Well, that's depending on the rate.
So if you're looking at the 3-family average, it's about 370, probably, you know. just
370
Yes,
a
I'm
year.
looking at these numbers for the year.
Okay.
That's non-owner,
That's for.
non-owner 3-family average.
Yep, that's 3
Oh,
family.
not
Non-owner 3-family average.
What about owner single?
The average is about, math in my head, so don't go by it, 260.
$260 a year with the proposed
6.3.
6 point.
The way it is, yep.
6.3. Thank you.
Yep.
Janine, so this is a unique situation though, just because everything's just coming to a head because
Yes.
it's all, because in all my years, we've never had to do this. So this is just, you think it'll repeat itself or there's no way to tell?
So we're not getting reimbursed yet on the money that we just took out, which is the $4 million payment for the new high school. We're not getting any reimbursement on that until they're close to completing the high school. So that's really the big problem.
Should we be expecting reimbursement once all the payments?
Yeah, so that's why the state aid went up, because we are gonna get an increase in our school construction aid due to the Baldwin school being completed.
That's.
That's in the budget, I put that in the budget.
That doesn't fall in their budget, that falls in our.
That's our
service.
budget, we get that, yeah.
Just- Is it?
Go ahead.
What is the benefit for next year? Or exceeding the cap, what's the benefit for next year? Relative to the levy, if we go with the proposed budget versus cutting it or cutting it down to 40%. Is there a benefit for next year's budget season relative to where the levy will be?
I would say it's gonna help the city side. For sure.
That's kind of what I was
Yeah,
asking.
but
Council Rubio?
would it put us in a better predicament knowing that we're going to get, it's not, the debt to services isn't going to be as high, right? So potentially, this doesn't have to happen next year.
In 27.
Right. So it puts us in a good place to start next.
The
year.
following, correct.
Going over the cap.
Going over the.
Going over the cap this year would help us
Leave
greatly
us.
for next year,
Give us
because that
some-
levy stays wherever you.
And now,
go.
when you think 2 years
Yeah.
later, do you, I mean, I know 2
Project,
years later,
yeah.
but do you project even being in a better situation with having gone over the cap?
So we're gonna keep adding the debt for the high school, because we vote, you know, we voted 30 million, we've only taken out 10 million so far.
With
So
the
that,
reimbursements.
the reimbursements, when this high school is completed, will start coming in.
That's after 5 years.
5 years.
Yep,
No,
yep,
but-
yep.
Yeah, if the project's
That's
gonna take
also
5 years.
the benefit of not having a somewhat healthy capital reserve.
Right.
$15 million free,
Mhm.
right? They take $15 million of taxpayer money in a month.
Right.
If they had half of that, it would be enough. What RIDE does is a pay bill, right, Mike? So if they're going to do a $1 million upgrade or maintenance to go off shed, that kind of thing. They take that $1 million out, pay it from their capital reserve. As soon as the project is done, we get up to 92% back.
They call it legal.
920,000.
But they used to call it shovel-ready projects. So projects that you can get done right away, bang them out, put the money into it, and then get it back. At the reimbursement rate, I believe was 81.5% at the time. And actually, I was the chair when we created that capital reserve fund. It was a great idea to do. So this way we could take care of some of the bills that we had in our schools that weren't these big projects. So say it was a stair lift, say it was an elevator, whatever the case may be. It would go through RIDE approval, get it fixed, and get 81% back. And the idea, and we started, I know the number, we started with $400,000. And the idea was spend $100,000 get the $81,000 back, and then spend that 81,000 to get more back. So it's not 400,000. By the time you're done, that number has expanded. Because then that was the whole sense of that project.
And that's the idea behind the offer them of using some of them. That is all restricted. You got $15 million. You're gonna have to find some way to funnel it back to their operators, right? But if they had, forget how it what they had taken. If they had $8, $7, even $6 million in capital reserve, more than enough. The benefit also of doing pay-go is that you don't bond it, get it back right away, and ride and hold that building over your head for 12 years. For example, if they wanted to fix Shea and it cost $2 million, they wanted to pull that from the approved bond, we would get it back at the end of that project. But ride and make you keep that as a functional school for 20 years. So that's, it absolutely benefits them to have a capital reserve. It is the architect of it in the first place. But it doesn't need to be $8 million, doesn't need to be $12 million. The last number I saw, they were more than 15 million.
So their capital reserve, they have their regular reserves, and then they have capital reserves and pay-go. They set that up as separate funds. Their regular reserves is 15 million. That includes the medical.
That does not include.
It does not include the capital.
No, but it does include medical.
It includes medical. I'm counting it. So they have close to 12 in regular reserves.
Yep.
They're gonna have about 3 million each by the time we're done with medical. They have 3 million in capital reserves, and then they have another 3 million in pay-go right now, as of the FY24 order.
That first number includes the 8.5 fiscal.
Correct.
So what, during, like, when you guys were having discussion, was there any discussion of their intent to start pulling from their capital at all, or no? Or they want to maintain it and not pull from it?
Oh, just look at their budget. He's budgeted more money, to take that money and put it in their reserves. It's like you going to your father and saying, hey, Dad, can I borrow $100? Knowing he's on welfare. And he said, sure, honey, anything for you. And he said, what do you want it for? And he said, I'm gonna go put it in my bank.
My understanding is.
That is the equivalent.
My understanding is.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
So they did talk about, oh, yeah, we're gonna start pulling.
I know.
My dad's living a life in Portugal, he's.
One other point that I want to make is, as we go through these deliberations and we make up these numbers and everything else too, we are charged not to have an impact or have the least impact on our taxpayers. And that's the way I look at us doing our job. But one other thing that we have to recognize, and especially in this city, bond payments, when people turn around and vote for bonds, they historically support the bonds all the time. It's passed all the time. We'll recognize, like Councilor Perugia just said, if you're putting it on a credit card and then you gotta make the payment on that credit card, or else the interest goes up, the finance charges go up. So that's something that the taxpayers brought on themselves by supporting the bonds. That's why we need to be a little bit more educated about what we do. It's not saying that it's wrong, they're just saying they want us to fund it. Well, that's funny. Now we've got to find a way to fund it. There is a cost associated with it. And again, the difference too is not all voters are taxpayers. You know, and it's easy to say yes. You're not the one to go out and tax your voters. Now you can say that, you know, second floor tenant or a third floor tenant might be paying that incremental difference. I just looked at Councilor Rougeau, Councilor Rodenhain, you, right? You're not passing along those things. But your tenant, his former tenant, Councilor Barry's tenants, they all get a vote on spending money. They don't get the bill. It's just is the way it is. I'm not saying we can fix it. I'm not saying that it can be fixed. It's just another reality that some folks can vote for a project
and it has no consequence. And we now are at the point where this is the consequence. Consequence is just to satisfy those bond payments, we are at our max cap. This is precisely why the General Assembly put in place this process to go over the cap. Like, it made it really tough. Like, R has to tell us, yes, we can do it, and then 8 of us, 4/5 of any municipal body has to agree to do it. But there is an excess, they understand that, okay, while you might have to spend all your 4% on bonds, on bond payments, there still is the ongoing operational costs to the city. That's why this process exists. But it's also why it's so demanding.
If I may, getting to, fixing these schools and look with, even where we are here, because of the shape that City Hall is in, right? Look at the West Ave Fire Station, what we did, because of the shape that was in. It's all about the safety and health of the folks that work there, go there, et cetera. Ride had a moratorium, I think it was about 7 years or so, that they wouldn't help us aid for building. So that top can get kicked down the road. So again, yeah, the voters did vote for it, but I would definitely always stand behind it because it was needed. But again, now it's time to pay. We're grateful that the voters, as a body, the city council votes to put it out there as a body initiative. And we were in a predicament, still in a predicament. I mean, there's still schools that need to be fixed. I don't know where we are rated as far as fixing schools, but we got to be one of the top municipalities. We have.
Yes, we are number one in construction.
So
yes,
yeah,
and all we got to hear about is instruction.
And you need the, how many calls did I get when I was the chair of the committee about winter school? Going over there, big crack, they had the heating on the outside of the building. There were so many inequities with that building, and we needed to fix it, right? So again, we're in this position, but it's a position because for the betterment of the city, betterment of the students, we took that path. So I just wanted to, just expand on that, because $4.7 million extra. Again, you have to pay it, but it was, to me, for good reason, and, but now we have to make a decision tonight.
Councilor Rubio.
You said that reducing school funding by 5% according to the state statute. Did we confirm the state statute? Is this 100% correct?
We absolutely, it'll be his motion. So
we're not confirming prior to making this motion. Which,
Because this is the only way I see, the only path I see going forward.
but
it is the
it
only
wouldn't
time.
be a path if it's not.
Well,
It's a home. It's a home.
It still would be a path.
We need some
Perhaps.
Uncertain path. That
Right.
We don't know.
It perhaps could begin a dialogue of a rule action or something. But again, this is a starting point. If every one of us looked at this like there is no way we're going over the cap, this is the chairman's amendment is the only way to get it. We kind of got to go through the hurdles in order. I think,
Councilor Gregor.
Well, I don't like either one of these choices. It's either
bad
to bad.
You're in a room with a bunch of people that feel the same way.
Never said it was gonna be easy.
Well, we had asked me at the last time to get the ARPA fund balance relative to the allocation. I haven't seen it. I don't know how much money is left and where it's going.
But that ARPA fund has nothing to do with what we're doing with schools. This is dealing directly with that. I did ask for that number. I've been told also opioid money, but that number will get, and I'll make sure that you get it.
And even if it was there, I don't think we could actually allocate it
No,
for next
we
year. It
can't.
has to have.
No, it has to be allocated.
It's already all
Sorry.
allocated.
Yeah.
it's restricted,
Yeah.
so
There is no pot of money to pull from to solve this problem.
Mhm.
This this, while some of us have concerns with, is the only possible way to do it. Doesn't mean we have to do it, it just means that we have to, what I'm putting out, that we consider it.
No, I'm just saying, if there's money allocated for certain things, that's available, yeah, it might not, you can't use it for school, certainly use it to reduce, other budgets for the department's expenses here, which we can, right?
The ARPA money has all been submitted to the feds, and
Right.
we can't change anything.
Yeah, that was done.
We can just spend it
It's not a
until
lot of money to
2026,
do
but
it.
that's
It's gotta
it.
be, it had to be allocated, or
Yep.
at least
Yep.
identified for a
By last
project by last year, it's gonna be spent by the end of next.
Identified and approved, we
Right.
had to approve it.
Right, but there's not a pot of money tagged ARPA. What are the projects? I mean, that's the question we keep asking them. I mean, we've had two different.
It has been sent over, but we're happy to resend it, but there is a list of projects that have been listed for specific for that. If there was, for whatever reason, remaining funds, it would have been a no-brainer for us to put it into the budget, just to try to put some savings there.
That's outside of the scope of that.
Correct.
Could you just send that information back
Yeah,
to the Council Gregor so that he has it?
Well, as I was gonna say, the only other thing, Council Gregor, would be we could potentially, what we have, it's always taboo, to mention it is tap into the reserve fund.
And believe me, that's something that we discussed in the leadership, but the only response that we get all the time, unlike the $15 million that if they tap into it, it doesn't affect their bond rating, because they don't have a bond rating. We're the ones that pay the bills, and it affects our bond rating. So it will have an effect on us. It won't have an effect on them. And that's the frustrating part of having discussion with people that aren't interested in the proposals that we're bringing forward. We were, and as much as we can listen to in the other room, that we haven't provided them with more money. We were given a worksheet of, while we've given them $32 million for the last five years, we've given them other money, in support of the schools, yet we don't get recognized for it. All we get recognized is that we level funded and that we're doing them a disservice. That is a disservice to the taxpayers when people don't recognize what reality is. I feel bad that the situation they're in, but they need to take a longer look at their deposits and their budgets and turn around and see how they allocate their money so that it is benefiting their schools. And it's clearly not, it hasn't worked. Again, all I hear is we're the lowest school. We're 34 out of 35. But like President Mercer says, we're number one when it comes to reallocating money for schools, rehabilitation, turnaround construction, but yet nobody wants to mention that. They'll just play off the negative. Well, I'm not here to play off the negative. I'm here to resolve an issue. And this is the only way I can see fit to resolve it. So, with that being said, I also like to thank President Mercer for explaining, going over the cap and what that means to us as a body, because we need to know that. Rick, annual operating budget, I don't have to do anything. Do we have to just take a vote to support it, or?
You can do.
We're not making recommendations, just come without a recommendation. Because I don't want to go to my colleagues and have to.
You just say, move it to the floor without a recommendation.
All right, then, number two, we'll go to number two. Okay.
You can take a vote.
All right.
Just move it to the floor without a recommendation.
Wait, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, some of the cuts, those suggested you would have all, more cuts that can be done here, so like.
Council, I
spent a lot of money on legal and consultation.
I spent the weekend going over it, line by line.
As did I.
As we were all supposed to do.
Right, and went through it, looked for
You had
cuts
to
that
bring it
were
up.
reasonable that we could get. I'm not saying that they're going to be attainable, but I saw them as reasonable. And as the director told you, and the mayor actually told you in his presentation, they left 27 jobs open. And that's not including the fire jobs that are open and some of the police jobs that are open, that we can't get people, to take those positions. So they're working at a bare bones budget. And for us to turn around and cut even more would be irresponsible on our half. And from again, depending on where we're gonna get it, it would be from a safety aspect. A lot of the times when we look at these budgets, we'll look at $3 million in overtime and say, oh, no, you ain't getting $3 million. But that's the realization. When we're running with less people, we turn around having more people work overtime, getting hurt, and we end up having to pull somebody else in to turn around and take the overtime. So it's not a number, they don't take the numbers lightly, and I don't take them lightly when I turn around and put the proposal in. That was rational, and that rational was $300,000, well, $400,000. That means I gotta find another $2.1 million to cut in the city side? That's not rational. I'm not gonna do it.
And it wasn't easy for you to get the 300.
Right, no, it wasn't. It meant making cuts that I didn't
That's
like
why
doing,
we
but I did.
asked everybody on Monday
throw it
night,
out.
if you have a suggestion,
Minutes,
suggestion
by that
can't
date.
be, can we find more?
Can't do it now.
I mean,
That was-
on first passage tonight. That's why everybody has a budget book, right? That's why everybody has to go through it line by line.
Chairman, I don't have any.
I know.
It was easy years ago.
I don't mind the people, I don't mind you not
Plenty of
having
money.
me, it's the people that don't like me, I don't care about that. So, don't worry. But I'll entertain a motion to turn around and pass the annual operating budget ordinance to the floor. Make a
I'll
recommendation.
make the motion to put it on the floor without a recommendation.
Second.
Made by Councilor Moran, seconded by Councilor Rubio, that we submit the annual operating budget ordinance to the full council for their consideration. All those in favor?
Aye.
Number two.
Number two is a capital budget ordinance 2025, 2026. Motion just to discuss.
We've got a motion by Councilor Moran, seconded by Councilor Rubio, that we take up the capital budget ordinance 2025, 2026. All those in favor?
Aye.
Rick, you want to explain this quick? Capital, I think we already did lots of depth. Is there anything else that we have to do expanding on the capital?
It's very, I don't think we've ever seen a change in this order, so that you just move that to the floor.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
It's been made a motion by Council Rubio, seconded by Council Moran, to move the capital budget ordinance to the floor for the full council's consideration. All those in favor?
Aye.
That being done, we're all set. We can go back to city council and I'll go talk tomorrow. Yeah.
Counselor Gregg is here.
Okay, Council Ruja, I will entertain a motion to reconvene.
Yes, I would like to make a motion, to reconvene the public hearing on the municipal budget.
Second. Been moved by. We're actually reconvening as the Pawtucket City Council. So the motion from Councilor Arujo, second by Councilor Wildenhain, is that we reconvene as the Pawtucket City Council at 8:38. All in favor of reconvening?
Aye.
Opposed? Clerk will note that all members are still present.
Huh?
Councilor Rujo, item one.
Item on, oh, sorry, okay. There we go. Okay, item number one, I make a motion to approve the previous minutes of May 7th, 2025 of the Finance Committee, the Committee on Claims and Pending Suits, and the City Council.
Second. Moved by Councilor Rujo, second by Councilor Wildenhain. Approval be given to the minutes of the May 7th, 2025 meetings of the Finance Committee, the Committee on Claims and Pending Suits, and the City Council as prepared by the clerk. Are there any concerns, amendments, deletions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number two, I call for approval of the consent agenda and correspondence.
Been moved by Councilor Rujo, second by Councilor Moreno, that approval be given to item two, the consent agenda and correspondence. Are there any items in item two that the members would like to discuss? On my left, no one? On my right? In that case, all in favor of approval of item two?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we take item three, Counselor, I would just like to note, before we continue, you'll note that items 3 and 5 on the agenda relating to the budgets and the hazard mitigation plan are being taken out of their normal order. This is done pursuant to rule number 12 of the City Council rules regarding the order of business. The reason for this is if someone comes here for a public hearing at the beginning of our meeting, they won't have to sit through several unrelated items before that matter they came for is up for a vote. It's often an ordinance and that's subject of public hearing, which wouldn't come up until late in the evening. So of course, anyone who wants to stay for all the items is certainly free to do so. But we will move on to item 3, which is the annual operating budget, which is why the majority of you are here. Counselor.
Item 3, the Finance Committee returns the following ordinance. The annual operating budget ordinance 2025 for first passage, and under discussion, I have a motion that I want to, for an amendment.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Wildenhain, second by Councilor Moran and Councilor Rubio, that the Finance Committee returns the annual operating budget ordinance for 2025-26. This will be first passage. The motion is to take up the budget. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry, Chairman. Before we start, I wanted to explain a couple different things, which this is the first time we are experiencing anything like this. Okay, the proposed budget proposes the city council, asks the city council to surpass the municipal cap of 4%, which every municipality is bound by. There is a mechanism in state law for municipalities to surpass the cap of 4%. And it's kind of two-pronged, three-pronged really. It has to you have to be needing to exceed your cap because of excessive debt service, i.e. your debt service is chewing up almost that entire 4%, if not more. General Assembly realized that bond debt service is the will of the voters, but that they might obligate a municipality to spend their entire cap solely on bond projects, which is kind of what we have here. So when you find yourself in that predicament, you can ask the Department of Revenue, the mayor has asked the Department of Revenue to allow us to consider exceeding the cap. He has proposed a budget of not 4% increase, but 6.4, give or take. It comes with a monumental hurdle to get over. It requires 4/5 of the city or town council. So in that case, we need 8 members here tonight to approve any budget proposal that would exceed 4%. So it's a very, very high threshold. There is no way around it. So before we head in, so I just wanted to explain that to everybody out there, because this is the first time, and Councilor Moran's been here for 30-something years. First time in my 13 years, first time in Councilor Wildenhain's 15 years that this has ever happened. It's the first time in the city this has ever happened. So it's a little bit of an uncharted territory. I would just like to ask members, a show of hands, who has concerns about exceeding the cap, just before we go any further. I know I do, right? So doesn't mean you're adamantly opposed, just you have some concerns about it. And so with that, Councilor Wildenhain, the finance chair, you said you have a motion?
I have
A proposed amendment?
I have a proposed amendment, and I want to thank Councilor President Mercer for explaining that. As he said, the mayor went to the state, they gave him permission, and under the law, he's allowed to do what he sees fit to run the city and meet with a balanced budget. At the same time, feel the same obligation to try to do what we can do. And when we went through this, the other part of this is that he also went to the state and the legislature and to get a new classification of 10% non-owner occupied that was supported by the council and went through. So that'll be another increase that the taxpayers also see in this budget. So with that being said, looking at it and trying to rationalize how we maintain that 4% cap was something that I thought was important for us to do. So by doing that, I spent a lot of time rectifying it. It wasn't pleasurable, but it was the only way to come up with the avenue, the revenue that we needed to actually attain a levy rate of 3.99 with the 10% on the non-owner occupied. That's the only way that we still owe another $2.5 million. And we as a council have to come up with that. So as President Mercer said, we can go over the levy, or we can turn around and put in amendments that'll get us to this point. While they're not popular, cuts are cuts. And I'm going to make them, and the other thing I want to commend is the council leadership met with the leadership of the school committee and tried to put something together. And we do this a lot of times. We've done it over the years and have tried to work together. And it's unfortunate sometimes where we can't get the collaboration and people get stuck in their own heads about, the us against them attitude. But I've got more comments to that I'll share later as we move forward. But at this point, I'm going to turn around and put out an amendment from my perspective, the proposed budget changes that we need to do in order to get to the 4% cap. We need to change the school funding line from 33,305,937 to 32,805,937. That removes the $500,000 acquisition or appropriation that the mayor put in his budget. Further, we need to reduce school funding by 5% according to the state statute and allow us this will garner us 1.64296.20, making the new funding number 31 million. I want everybody to understand that too. We're talking $31,165,640.20. That number, along with the 500,000, gets us to $2,140,296.85. There's an additional need there to make sure that we go below the cap of another $393, $3,993. And $76.15.
393,000.
Excuse me. So in order to do that, we have, I put other reductions in informational technology under hard, soft maintenance. Some of these definitions are a little bit leery, so bear with me. They are going to go from 600,000 to 500,000. It's a $100,000 change. Planning, we have a consultant at 150. They're going to go to $150,000 change. Uniform overtime for the police, 100,000. They're going from 1,050,000 and 50,000 to 950,000 to a $100,000 change in overtime there. Uniform fire, they're going from 2.5 million to 2.4 million, $100,000 change there. Highway, outside vendor from $100,000 to 75,000 to that's a change of $25,000. Street cleaning and snow removal, outside vendor from 72,000 to 60, that's a change of $12,000. And personnel, outside vendor from 45,000 to 38,924. That's a change of $6,076. Think of the total changes of $393,076. These changes get us to the 2.533373 plus the 10% non-owner occupied gives us a levy of 3.99. That is my amendment that I will put forth.
Been moved by Counselor Wildenhain
And I'll second it.
and seconded by Counselor Moran that we reduce the proposed budget to below the municipal cap of 4% to 3.99%. And I'll just, I have to reread this. So the motion by Councilor Wildenhain is to reduce the maintenance of effort for schools by 5% in the amount of $1,640,000, $1,640,296.85. Additionally, to remove the $500,000, $500,000 penciled in the mayor's appropriation. That brings us to $2,140,296.85. Additionally, to get below the 4% cap. And again, that would need a 5-person simple majority vote, not an 8-person vote. He needed to cut an additional $393,076.15. To get there, he is proposing a $100,000 reduction in infotech hard and software maintenance, $50,000 reduction in planning department consultants, $100,000 from uniform police overtime and $100,000 from uniform fire overtime, as well as $25,000 for outside vendors for highway, $12,000 for outside vendors from street cleaning and snow clearing, and $6,076 from personnel outside vendors. That is the motion. Is there any discussion? Counselor? Chairman, did you want to speak to your motion, or you said you had other comments? That's why I'm asking.
I had other comments. This off. I had other comments that I was going to do after the budget's been approved, and I'll save my comments for that point in time. But I do want to point out that, excuse me, I didn't think you were going to ask me to talk again, so I said I have something to eat. I do want to point out, I listened to the people that come up here, and excuse my mess that I've got. Here it is here. Ms. Plimpton, Mr. Rojas. You know, you turn around and say that you need more money, and I don't even know if they're still here. But you say you need more money for the schools. You know, and I really get offended when people tell us that we're level funding them and they're looking at we're not giving our contribution to the schools. It's $32 million. And it's a lot more than that with the other supporting money that goes with it. The only responsibility that should go with it is for them to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars and spend it appropriately. when social workers come in here and tell me that they're not scheduled, there's a lack of funding. Well, from the best knowledge that we have, under an audit that still hasn't been finished from what I understand, is that $15 million is in surplus over at the school side. And yet, when we have a budget workshop, their CFO comes before us and tells us that money that they allocate is any money that we allocate to them, they've been told to put into their reserves. So I'm taking money out of taxpayers' pocket or bank account, and I'm putting it into the school bank account. I'm not going to do that. Not from my standpoint. I'm going to turn around and rely on those people that are in positions there to do the responsible thing and fund it to the point where you're getting things done. And that's the problem. We're squirreling money away, or certain people are squirreling money away. And then when we try to offer some type of a quid pro quo or some type of, accomplishment for the taxpayers, or, to do something for the taxpayers, we're told, no, it perpetuates that us against them attitude. It irritates the life out of me. There was a time on this council where we all worked together, and it's a time that we need to get back to. But it's not a time of sitting there saying, this is mine, this is yours, have a nice day. I'm fed up with that kind of adage, because, for us sitting in a room, and as Mr. Beaupriest said, I'm a product of the public school system too. I graduated from Tolman. Mr. Grock's rolling over in his grave knowing I'm doing a budget for $150 million right now. But I do it with a responsibility that I was elected to do, to represent the taxpayers to the best of my ability. And the children are part of that. So like we do on the city side, we hold everybody accountable and make sure that every penny that's being spent is being spent wisely, and we're accomplishing things. And that's to the credit of the mayor sometimes, in some of the projects that we've put out here. Nobody likes losing McCoy. Nobody likes losing Memorial Hospital. But he constantly chases after people to turn around and refurbish this city. So while he's looking for new and innovative ways to turn around and get things accomplished, they should be doing that on the school side too. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Arujo.
I want to thank Councilor Wilden Hain for all his hard work and the efforts and working on his budget. How did we get here? We hear that term once in a while. The school debt service increase was $4.7 million. 83% of the debt service for school is for school construction that we have in this city. But I will always support that. I will always support facility upgrades for the health and safety of our students, our employee group, and our residents. We did it here at City Hall, right? We moved here temporarily or permanently, whatever the case may be, because we're having issues at City Hall. Our role is to, and this is to vote whether, when it comes to projects, to put them out to the voters to bond out. And take a look at the projects that have been supported, that have been completed or are in progress for the schools. Potter Burns, Nathaniel Green, Henry J. Winters, Elizabeth Baldwin, Pawtucket High School. Okay, we've supported schools. And I've heard some people say to me and individually, you're not investing in schools. Yeah, we are. We are. And it's like your own credit card. You go out and buy something, and then you have it for a month. Next thing you know, the bill comes in, and now it's time to pay. But I would pay that anytime with the reimbursement rate that we have, and the schools that needed fixing. There was such a moratorium with RIDE for many years for the school aid, building aid. So this city schools, facility-wise, was really in rough shape. And I believe this council and the council before mine, when I wasn't on the council, supported that, and I would still support that. We need good schools for our students and for our faculty. We really do. And every time we borrow $1 million, it's on a 20-year note. It's $50,000 on the tax burden that we have, and that's without interest. So we have to keep that in mind as well. We're told that the school has $15 million surplus. If working with the city council, if the school committee decided to move some of the money to restricted funding, it would become unrestricted, it would be part of their MOE as, you know, as we proposed a couple years ago and as we had discussions this year about, you know, if there's a, you know, if it, I would support that if I was still on a school committee. It's some form, it doesn't have to be the first iteration, but have the conversations and work it out. See if you could take some of that restricted funding and put it towards the school debt service. And in this way, we can ease the burden on the taxpayers as well. You know, you're affecting not only taxpayers, property owners, but the renters as well. You know, there's a lot at stake here. And I remember, you know, one time we had an offer, I believe it was 4 million for 1.3. And after 3 years, the school department would have got 3.9, and the fourth year would have been a total of 5.2. But that would have brought the budget to what we today would be $34.1 million, not 32.8. If it would have done that, it would have alleviated a year or two of debt service payment, some of the payment, and it would be a higher MOE baseline. And you know, I would have done that. You know, we met Councilor Wildenhain, President Mercer, and I met with a couple of the school committee leadership team, and a couple of scenarios were discussed. And you know, it wasn't, it wasn't what they were looking to do. And they said they were going to come back and talk to us. That was a week ago Sunday. It's been crickets. I haven't heard anything. So the dialogue had stopped. And you know, so now we're in a quandary. You got to pick your poison. Do you want to go over the cap, or do you want to cut the maintenance of effort by 95%? Well, you know, Council Willie, I appreciate what you do, but in good conscience, I cannot go to a 95% of the maintenance of effort. They have reserves in from what we can see that can help pay for some of the needs that they have. But by taking 1.64 million from the maintenance of effort, that's a structural deficit next year or the year after. It's going to be a high hurdle to you know, try to get over. So I just, they got to utilize the surplus this year. The debt service we're hearing may come down a bit next year, and you know, it's still going to be there. We're still going to have a big number to do, but cutting that maintenance of effort, I have a hard time with that, because I believe it will put, even though they have a surplus, as they go this year, next year, the following year, that surplus will dwindle down. 1.6 as a starting base. I think we're going to incur problems down the road, you know, as a municipality, as they come for subsequent budgets. So, you know, that's why I appreciate the work, but right now I'm not comfortable doing a 95%. So I won't be supporting that, but I appreciate the effort.
Councilor Rubio.
I just want to say respectfully to my counselors, and I know my chair has worked immensely, and thank you for doing that. But you know, budget negotiations are never easy. The decisions we face today require thoughtful balance, one not negotiated by personalities or personal interests or misleading blame. This isn't school committee versus council. We are one Pawtucket. It's how I feel it across the board. Our responsibility is both to the taxpayers and our students. We can't undo what got us here today. We can only move forward with a plan that's fiscally responsible to taxpayers and provides our schools support in their current struggle. This is the reality we're living today. It's not a good look for anyone. We're not standing strong on any side. We are all struggling. Our departments, our schools, infrastructure, our buildings are crumbling. We need to work together. I will also not be supporting this amendment. I think that if anything, we need to work collaboratively. I think that the 500,000 with the included maintenance of effort, I think that it should create a collaboration moving forward so that we're in a better place for next year. So I will also respectfully will not be supporting it. And that's that.
Councilor Stacoviak.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to leadership and Chairman Wildenhain for all your hard work in trying to find ways to cut this, because we all know that it was almost impossible. I said to the chairman, I do not envy him at all. When they asked us to go through it, I said, where can we go through it? Chairman, thank you for your amendment and the work you did on it, but I also will not be supporting it. I, in good conscience, could not take $1 from the school. But also, in addition to that, last week during our workshop, we had department after department come to us and say, please, like, there is nothing more for you to cut. Like, I'm already working bare bones. So we talk about school, but we also have to talk about city services. That is also in a position of detriment. So I think right now, this amendment is just not going to work for me, and I will not be supporting it.
Council Moreno. Just a little closer. To echo the comments of Councilor Pujo, I was on the school committee as the MOE was first brought up and had it in supported by all of my colleagues at that time. What at the brought us, it could have and at or exceeded the current amount that they had. That is currently at a brought us so I thought it was pretty unfortunate that the MOE wasn't brought to us here. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Anybody?
Go ahead.
Counselor
Go ahead,
Gregor.
go ahead. You raised his hand. Go ahead.
Counselor Moran.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to echo the comments from my fellow counselors for all the hard work, Chairman, Finance Chair Wilden, you've done. You're an Iron Man doing this stuff. I mean, you bury your head into this stuff and you really, but you study all the numbers, and I really respect what you've done. And I know you worked really hard on this like you do every year as the chair. And even when you're not the chair, you're pretty much do the most homework that I've ever seen of any counselor. And I think I've said that for all the years I've been here, I've never seen anybody do so much research in a budget. So kudos to you. I'm going to have to echo the sentiments of my fellow counselors, though. We're very limited in the options that we have this evening on this budget. It's very, very tight. There's not much we can do on this. That was an option. That's pretty much the only option that we have to try to keep us at the cap of 4% or just below. But I'm just not comfortable in reducing the maintenance of effort to by 5%. I think it opens up a can of worms that we don't want to see. There also, we talked about it earlier, there may be some strings attached even if we wanted to do that, which we don't know if we can meet those strings. The other thing, and I hate to bring this up because as President Mercer says many times, I'm a dinosaur here too, but I hate to bring up the word Carullo Act, but you never know. I mean, you reduce this maintenance of effort by 5% and potentially you may open up yourself to a lawsuit and it could get ugly down the line. So I know we have some other options on the table. They're very limited, but I just am not comfortable voting for this particular option. But again, thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
Council Gregor.
Thank you, Council Willoughby, for, I know you spent a lot of time on that. And I'm in agreement here that
was proposing $5.5 million, and now this budget looks to not only take away that 500,000, but reduce it by an additional 1640, which would be, below the level funding that's been happening for the last 5 years, as I understand it. I think it's a disservice to children mainly, and the schools and the teachers. I think asking them to use the reserve funds that they do have for emergencies and such would only temporarily put a Band-Aid on it, not achieve anything. And then what are they left with? From what I understand, they've been trying to put this money to get us to 2015. I think we have an obligation to fund the school properly. And although I do see the benefit in kids being in a proper school that's safe, a lot of the funds that are being spent here on school construction, while we're neglecting the core needs of the children, is that they learn. We have failing schools, high absenteeism, people dropping out of school. That there's a reason for that. I don't believe that simply investing all the money on building new schools without taking care of core issues is going to get us anywhere. You're just going to have the same problems in a brand new school. A lot of these schools have major structural problems and issues which should have been, kept up and fixed. It would cost a lot less. We wouldn't be looking at this. I mean, the debt service that we have right now didn't come as a surprise. Knew it was coming, so I don't know. We are given two choices that they're both bad. One is increasing the cap by 4%, and the other one is taking away money from the kids and the teachers and everybody that's needed to get these kids successful. Because I mean, I heard some people talking, but it is true. If you don't invest in your people, what are you investing on? Again, new buildings, fine, spending a lot of money, but if you don't have kids in it, functioning kids who are learning, what is the point of that? So you got two options. One is fiscally irresponsible. The other one is morally irresponsible. So I like to see something different.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, so I'm going to weigh in here, but relative to this amendment, I have to start somewhere else. I took some time off work today so I could collect my thoughts, and I wrote this down as an outline. I didn't want to misstate anything or misrepresent anything, but I have to address some incredible misrepresentations and downright mistruths about the travel of this budget season. And it's going to take me a bit, so bear with me. I honestly don't know where to start regarding the blatant falsehoods that have been advanced by the school committee chairman. So I'll start at the very beginning, and that was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. 3 or 4 weeks ago, just keep that in mind. The mayor gave us a preview of his budget, his expected budget, which was calling for a monumental tax increase of nearly 6.5%. One so unheard of, it requires state approval for us to even consider it, and a 4/5 vote of this council to approve it. Without 8 votes out of the 9, the 4% levy max increase would be chewed up entirely by debt service. And nearly 85% of that debt service, just let that rattle around a little bit. 85% of that debt service is for school construction. I stand behind all the school construction we're doing. I was the one who helped put it on the ballot in the first place. But you have to understand that when you keep coming back to us with the us versus them, and with the level funding nonsense, and I will spell it out later on, that it is indeed nonsense. We are just this year alone, $18 million in construction debt service costs for school buildings. So with that uncertainty that we needed 8 votes to surpass that cap, knowing that only 2 members who refused to consider surpassing the cap could force us to cut an already impossible budget, I reached out to the school committee to discuss a mutually beneficial alternative. I reached out to the school committee finance chair directly because he had asked me a number of times if such an alternative could be discussed. Sometime later in this chronology, I came to understand that the school committee chair was somehow outwardly miffed that I contacted the finance chair instead of him. Again, I was only responding to an original outreach that I presumed was made with the blessing of the chair. There was no disrespect meant, intentionally or otherwise. And if those hurt feelings ultimately led to the chair's downward spiral, I apologize. Nonetheless, I reached out on May 5th, 16 days ago, just in case you're keeping track. 16 days ago, I asked if he and the chair would like to meet on this issue. The finance chair's response, again, clearly after consultation with the chair, was along the lines of, absolutely, the chair is in DC, but we'll be back in a couple days. Can you meet Thursday at 6 o'clock? I said yes, and that I'd make sure the leadership team of Councilor Arujo and Councilor Wildenhain cleared their calendars for that meeting Thursday at 6 o'clock. When I checked Thursday morning about a meeting place, I was told, sorry, the two of us are planning to attend the Pawtucket Foundation event. We'll have to get to you some other time. I was stunned. I asked why in the world two school committee members would attend a Pawtucket Foundation awards banquet instead of meeting to discuss millions of dollars of taxpayer funds and potentially devastating cuts. With no suitable response forthcoming, I then said, okay, that event's over at 7:30. How about you meet us afterward? Mark, Mike, and I will meet to crunch our own numbers, and you can come join afterward. The response to that was nothing, silence. I texted a little while later to where we would be meeting and that we'd be tucked into a corner booth at a local restaurant going over the numbers. Silence. I texted again. Hey, we're still here. Are you on your way? Silence. I finally texted at 9:30 and said, we're leaving. To which I got the reply, nothing. Now, eventually the finance chair reached out the next day and apologized for the deafening silence and suggested we meet some other time, but no other time seemed to be convenient. Well, I finally took the bull by the horns myself and I sent a text to both the school committee chair and the school committee finance chair, lest someone's feelings be hurt. And I said we'd meet on Mother's Day night at 8:30 to allow everyone to wind down from family obligations. That was May 11th, 10 days ago. Finally, when we met, Council Wildenhain laid out a couple of scenarios put together by our finance department. Not by him, not by me, not by Councilor Arujo. We're not smart enough to do that. Nearly the first words out of the chair's mouth were, I can't do that, I won't get reelected. Seriously, I'm glad you found it funny too. I won't get reelected. And if you think that's not what happened, ask Councilor Arujo, ask Councilor Wildenhain, and ask the finance chair from the school committee. That was his number one concern, a reelection 18 months down the road. Now I understood the Pawtucket Foundation shindig taking precedence. I was flabbergasted. I told him that none of the three of us here at that meeting, nor any of the six of us on this council right now had ever uttered those words or even had it cross their minds when making tough decisions. The next words to Councilor Moran's point was, well, if you do that, the commissioner is going to tell me to sue you in a Carullo action. That was the second words out of his mouth. I am going to sue the city that I represent because I'm unwilling to participate and collaborate, as Councilor Wildenhain mentioned earlier. It was then discussed that the school committee had no real confidence in their own department's numbers in any way, shape, or form. Again, don't believe me? Ask the three people that were sitting there. Yet they still expected us to buy into their numbers and raise taxes over $6 million, understanding as well that we needed 8 people to buy into it. And the chair went as far as to offer a couple alternatives right off the top of his head. Again, with no confidence in those numbers or whether it would work for anybody. I told them that our numbers came from our finance department, that we had not come up with them ourselves off the top of our heads. I asked them to go back to their CFO. And if they weren't comfortable with that, to ask their very capable and experienced attorney, who just happens to be the former Senate Finance Chair. I told him numerous times that time was against us all. I told him if we were interested in pursuing a workable solution, he'd have to put it on the agenda no later than Thursday or Friday of that week, because first passage of the budget was set for tonight, and the hearing notices had been set out. And we couldn't act on an agreement that hadn't been approved properly by his committee. I said 5 times that night, if I said it once, that if nothing was worked out, we were at the whim of 8 counselors who would be willing to dip into taxpayers' pockets for $6.5 million. And that time was of the essence. Accordingly, I begged, and again, asked the 3 people who were in attendance, I begged them to get back to me the next day, Monday, May 12th, 9 days ago. Monday came and went. Tuesday came and went. Wednesday came and went. I heard not back one time from the chairman, not one time, not by text, not by telephone, not by smoke signal, not one time. I began to think he might have lost his cell phone. But then I saw another silly video installment of the chairman's chatter, wherein he tells the city residents about asking the council for $2 million. Now, keep in mind, as I said earlier, that was 2 days after he was standing at that podium and was told that we were not, very clearly, we were not considering $2 million. It was not in the budget. It was not in the mayor's proposal. But 2 days later, he tells the residents, the citizens of this city, that they were asking for $2 million, knowing it's a complete fallacy. And it was a complete fallacy because for the second consecutive year, they were 2 weeks, if not more, late getting their budget to the mayor to be considered for the city's overall budget proposal. Ultimately, the mayor penciled in $500,000 as a placeholder in a budget he knew he was going to have to pray to get 8 votes. Moreover, in that silly video, the chair shifted gears to forget about his school department issues to say he's considering running for city council in Woodlawn, presumably against Councilor Gregor. He was made chair of the school committee without a minute's time in elected office, was concerned just 5 months in about a long-off re-election just 2 nights earlier, and now he's saying to everybody who will watch his video that his decision-making and leadership skills warrants a run for council. So let's recap those decision-making and leadership skills. Over the next 10 days, to this very minute, in fact, the chair failed to inquire of the CFO or the attorney, at least as far as I can tell, failed to get back to me or anyone else in council leadership. And I assure you, if he had reached out to Councilor Arujo or Councilor Wildenhain, my feelings would not have been hurt. That failure included not saying yes, not offering an alternative, or not even telling us to jump in a lake. It was silence. He hid under the covers, hoping it would all pass. He failed to inform his colleagues even about the specter of an alternative to help the taxpayers. Failed to post a hearing agenda or amend the hearing agenda for last night's meeting in time for a vote. Despite the crucial timing having been explained 10 days earlier, and then in perhaps the most alarming display of lack of leadership ever displayed, tried to get the finance chair to wrangle 4 votes of his other colleagues so he could vote no. Let that rattle around for a second. Forget for a moment that time had come and gone to make this happen, at least without talking his finance chair into an open meetings violation. Keep in mind that the finance chair, fortunately, had the good sense not to do that. He asked the finance chair to convince 3 other colleagues to supporting something the chair found controversial, so the chair could vote no. You jump into the muddy water, I'm going to stay on the side. Again, fortunately, the finance chair had a good sense not to head down that path. But I cannot tell you how galling that is as an elected official and a city council president. If I had ever acted in that manner as council, president of this council, I would deserve the unanimous mutiny that would have come immediately. Now it brings us to the last 24 hours. Last night, after a week and a half of incapacity, the chair follows up with a bald-faced lie on the floor of the school committee that he asked me to meet and was rebuffed. These are his very words. I tried to get a meeting with the city council president and wasn't able to. I don't think I've ever heard of a school committee chair not being able to get a meeting with the council president. A complete fabrication. Complete fabrication. I begged him to meet starting 3 weeks ago. I begged him and forced him to come in at 9 o'clock on Mother's Day night. I begged him to get back to me the next day. I begged him to set it on an agenda so his colleagues could at least consider cooperation. Today, we get another egomaniacal video proclaiming that we were negotiating through other people. It boggles my mind. Boggles my mind. It is a complete comical fabrication. Why would I, after 2-3 weeks, suddenly switch gears and use an intermediary? Makes no sense. I reached out. He was supposed to get back to us. He climbed under the covers. Never, ever answered or countered. Now in the last 24 hours, he has misrepresented every aspect of the last 3 weeks. And I have just said it straight for you. He has lied about asking me to meet. He's been lied about me rebuffing him. And he has sent out a call to action on social media, a call to really counter his 3 weeks of inaction. And here we are. So I apologize it's taken me this long in these lengthy remarks, although it's not really my apology that is needed. What I just said to you is indisputable. You can check it with anybody who has been involved in this process for the last 3 weeks. So now we're on to the amendment at hand. I did not want to exceed the cap. It's precisely why I sought out a meeting with the school committee leadership. Again, because I have great respect for Jim Shalell. He was trying to do what was right. He reached out to me a number of times, and again, presumably after having a discussion with his chair about a negotiated agreement about utilizing excess surplus in the school department. $15 million. $15 million of taxpayer money that they're sitting on. Do you know what the city's reserve account is? $12 million. $12 million. Jim asked if we might be able to revisit a proposal we had a couple different times. We were rebuffed each time we proposed it. And a former school committee chair and a former school committee meeting member would do that deal day after day after day. But the previous school committee, which was a complete dysfunctional unit, wouldn't do it. Now here we think maybe we get a little bit of collaboration, especially since we're now being asked, right? And the collaboration, the silence was deafening. Going over the cap is what we were talking about. We weren't sure there would be 8, never mind, maybe 5 people who would be willing to go over the cap because it's always been the third rail in municipal governance, right? It's you didn't do that. You just sharpened your pencil. So I'm going to do something at this moment. It doesn't appear to be as important now that we've heard from everybody else. But I am going to vote no on this amendment. I vote first. And I'm doing it in hopes that my colleagues join me. And I'm doing it for one simple reason. If we defeat this amendment, and we can discuss the possibility of surpassing the cap. But even then, it's a possibility. If we don't get 8 of us to surpass the cap, we can put a pin in this proposal for a moment. But if we will have no choice if we can't get 8 people to agree. We'd have to dust off this amendment, bite the bullet, swallow that poison, and do it. So I am going to vote no on this for that particular reason. But I just wanted everybody to understand that we tried. We tried, they lied. It's as simple as that. Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
No.
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 Gregor.
No.
Maria.
No.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
No.
Council Kubiak.
No.
Council Wilderness.
Yes.
Okay, so we are now, before us is the mayor's proposed budget of an increase of about $6.4 million. Are there any other proposed amendments or adjustments to the mayor's proposed budget? Counselor? I see you sifting through.
Sifting through paperwork. Give me 1 minute. I have an alternative. I just gotta find my paperwork. God knows we get enough of it. Well, if that one's. Let me see the one. You also did some other calculations. And again, going over the cap is nobody's desire. But giving money, I hate that thing. Giving money to an entity that just does not seem to allocate it appropriately, I don't think is in the best interest of the taxpayers. So I would propose that if we are going to exceed the cap, we exceed the cap by removing the $500,000 that the mayor appropriated for the schools, and whatever effect that has on the rate. I think it turns the rate, and I'm sorry for losing my sheet, but I think it turns the rate to 5.83. You have it? 5.83. And it turns around and brings the increase, excuse me. It brings the increase to 74 cents on the residential, increase at 74 cents on the residential, $1.29 on the commercial, and $2.05 on the non-owner occupied residential rate. So that would be my motion, is to turn around and fund 5.83 of the levy. And the way that we get to that is to turn around and remove the 500,000 from the mayor's proposed budget.
5.83.
5.83, correct.
That's, Janine, removing 500,000 from the proposed budget brings us to 5.83% levy increase. It's been moved by Councilor Wildenhain, second by Councilor Rougeau, that we
I have to do that.
amend the mayor's proposed budget by removing the $500,000 amount.
President Mercer, I had and other scenarios worked up just in case. So if you'd like me to read this as a proposed amendment, so that we can vote on it?
The same proposed amendment, but what it means to the bottom line.
Correct.
If you would read it, I will then have to take it from you and read it myself.
Well, she's got
You have a
more
copy?
copies. Janine will provide more copies, but I'll start the lengthy discussion of the amendments to the expenses. Decrease the fixed charges in total of 500,000, reduce the school contribution 500,000, total decrease in expenditures 500,000, total charges and expenses decrease 500,000. Amendments to revenues, decrease in property taxes, $589,932. The current real estate of 2026 is $589,932. Total decrease in revenue, $589,932. Increase in the property taxes, $89,932. Current tangibles, $89,932. Total increase in property taxes, $89,932. Total change in revenue decrease, $500,000. Once again, I apologize for all these numbers because they make me sick. The amendment rate of 1308 against the prior rate of 1234 represents a 74-cent increase in residential tax rates. Therefore, the above amendment represents a 0.08 decrease in residential tax rate in the proposed budget. The amended rate of 2289 against the prior year rate of 2160 represents the $1.29 increase in commercial taxes. Therefore, the above amendment represents 14-cent decrease in commercial taxes to the proposed budget. The amendment rate of 1439 against the prior year's rate of 1234 represents $2.05 increase to non-owner taxes. Therefore, the above amendment represents a $9 decrease in non-owner taxes to the proposed budget. The amended rate of 5209 against the prior year of 5209 represents a zero increase in tangible property taxes. Therefore, the above amendment represents a zero increase in tangible property taxes for the proposed budget. That would be my amendment, Council President.
Okay, so that amendment is still seconded by Councilor Rujo. And I am required to read it as well. This is what goes out as the budget hearing, the budget tax notice. The amendment is to decrease in fixed charges a total of $500,000 coming from school contribution for a total decrease in expenditures of $500,000. Amendments to revenue, decrease in property taxes, total of $589,932. Current real estate tax, the real estate of 2026, again, $589,932 for a total decrease in revenue of $589,932. It results in an increase in property tax of a total of $89,932. Total change in revenue is a decrease of $500,000. Thus, the amended rate of $13.08 against $13.08 against the prior year of $12.34 represents a 74-cent increase on residential taxes. That's per thousand. Therefore, the above amendment represents an 8-cent decrease on residential taxes in the proposed budget. The amended rate of $22.89 against the prior year rate of $21.60 represents a $1.29 increase in commercial taxes. Therefore, the above amendments represent a 14-cent decrease in commercial taxes from the proposed budget. The amended rate of $14.39 against the prior rate of $12.34 represents a $2.05 increase on non-owner taxes for multifamily. Therefore, the above amendments represent a 9-cent decrease on non-owner occupied taxes to the proposed budget. The amended rate of $52.09 against the prior rate of $52.09 represents a 0% increase in tangible property and therefore represents a 0% increase in tangible personal property taxes on the proposed budget. That is the amendment. This takes into consideration the discussion we will have before the end of the night on the non-owner occupied establishment of a non-owner occupied multifamily residential rate category. That is the amendment. Counselor, did you want to speak about your amendment, or are you?
These are amendments that, you know, again, while we put out amendments that aren't popular, they're also a form of negotiation for us to get to an ending point with the budget. We have to present a balanced budget. I just want to, again, I want to say the same thing. People that think that $32 million is an insignificant amount of money are woefully underinformed about the amount of money that we turn around and dedicate to our schools. And it bothers me because the collaboration, again, as Council President said, there was an opportunity there that I thought that we were going to be able to get because we haven't been able to do it with past committees. And I was hopeful, but it didn't materialize. So there's no sense crying over spilt milk, but it's just a point of now, where do we go from here? So this was put together. I imagine there's other options that my colleagues will offer out. But again, I think this is just the best option for us moving forward for the taxpayer, that we don't reach into their bank account and ask for more money when people stand up in front of us and tell us that money that we are giving them, another entity is telling them to put it into their capital reserves. I am not taking money out of anybody's bank account to stick it in somebody else's bank account. I'm trying to do the best that I can with what I have to work with, and believe me, it's not much. And that's the mayor is in that aspect too, that so much so that he has to go to the state to ask to go above the cap. Him and I struggle all the time when we don't even have the relationship that we used to have in the past, but I don't think it bothers him. But it's only from the standpoint that I have always been a proponent of, if you have to have a 2% tax increase, then do it. Don't do a 4% tax increase the year after an election year. That was all crap. And, you know, and to his credit, over the past few budgets, we've gotten to that point where it was a 2.9, and we did the things, and we tried to work collaboratively together. And I believe we've done that. And at the same time, we offer that olive branch out to other people and get told, no, we're not, sorry, we're not interested. And they didn't say they weren't interested. They just turned around and didn't say anything. So that in itself lends itself to us to having to make a decision that's not popular. You know, I have more respect for teachers than what they have to go through. You know, the fact that some people believe we need more social workers, taking the police out of the schools. Everybody's got a different idea about things. And I feel bad for, and I think he was here, Superintendent Buck. He's still here now. And I really do feel bad for him because he's got a monumental task. And I know he's looking to his committee to get the support. And I know Chairman Mercer turned around and said to him when he was here in the budget hearing, you know, instead of having these discussions 2 or 3 months before we get started, we should be having these discussions 11 months. So that when it comes time to sit down and do it, we've got everything outlined that we can get things accomplished. Because that's the last thing I want to see. I don't want to see a kid fall through the holes in the system. But for us to turn around and say, us not giving them another dollar or $500,000 is going to be a problem for them. Well, you've created a problem for us and the taxpayer with the $15 million that you have put away in surplus. And again, I've been here long enough to know and heard the preachings for over the years. We don't carry a surplus on the school side. We can't. Department of Education doesn't allow us. Then all of a sudden, there's a $15 million surplus. So, you know, again, it's all about collaborating and working together. And I hope at some point in the future that we get to that point, but we're not here tonight. We're making decisions tonight about the future, and that's because of what we had to deal with in the past.
Anyone else on this amendment? Oh, no one? I'm sorry, Council, I didn't see you.
These are definitely tough decisions. And when you speak of collaboration, it's funny, you hear that election time all the time, but you don't see it all the time in action. And on our part, I know that a collaboration is, coming to the table with something, and if it's rejected, okay, wait for it to come back and speak some more. And that wasn't done. And, I don't want to go over the cap. There's a lot of people hurting right now. But again, like I reiterate, don't want to take 5% off the MOE number either. So I appreciate you bringing this forward. I know it's 500,000 that's going to be taken out of the budget. Maybe they can use the surplus. Let's start talking a lot earlier for next year. Let's not wait until February, March. Come to the table. Years ago, the school committee and the city council and the mayor's administration worked very well together because we spoke, we talked, we negotiated, we worked. We understood the needs. We had dialogue. And that's gone by the wayside last few years. And I've seen it firsthand again this year. So collaboration is for both sides to talk and to bring ideas to the table and work together for the betterment of our city. And I am truly disappointed because that's, again, a lot of people talk about it, but you have to do it. You have to back up those words. And I don't feel it was really backed up this year. So let's come to, whatever we decide as a council, I'll be committed to get to the table and talk a lot earlier. So this way we can get all the data we need to work together collaboratively. Okay. You have the excess funds, take care of the needs, take care of the social workers, the social emotional learners, take care of the middle schools, throw some of that money out there. And then next year, let's see where we are. Let's see where we are. Let's see where we are with the debt service. Let's see where we are budget wise. Let's have those dialogues. Let's get that understanding from both sides and reach agreements. That's what we need to do. That's all I got to say on that.
Councilor Rubio.
We keep hearing about this 15 million surplus. We don't have factual information that tells us, or me for that matter, if it's allocated, how it's going to be utilized. I've heard on the opposite side that if they dip into it, we're going to have a 2 million deficit. I don't know if that's true or not. I know that I want to bet on the future of our children. I'm also not okay with removing 500,000. If we're going above the cap, we're going above the cap. It's not going to be good for taxpayers. It's not going to be good for anyone. I'm a taxpayer. I'll get hit on the business side, on the multifamily, and as a single family. But I'm willing to bet on our children and do what's fiscally responsible for our taxpayers. With that said, I think that why can't we do a 500,000 contingent to collaborative reporting partnership so that we could again set up ourselves for next fiscal year? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilor, and perhaps you make that, depending on what happens here, but perhaps that's a motion for another time, depending on what happens here. Councilor Moran.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can't beat the dinosaur yet.
I believe, I was trying to count, but I'm
Give
not
him
the
a
best
bone.
at math these days on my fingers, but this may be my 34th budget. This is like the worst budget, I think, to try to go through. And again, this is no fault of the administration, the mayor, anybody that's worked on it. It's just, the situation stinks. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was trying to jot down some notes and excuse my French, as they say, but the situation here, reality bites. It really bites. This is just an awful situation. There's no wiggle room. The options are so limited. It's like you're in a box and there's nowhere to go. The bottom line is we have to do the right thing for the taxpayers. We have to do the right thing for the education of the children here in the city of Pawtucket. We also have to be a little flexible in what we're doing, but there's just not much to choose from. There's just a lot of dissatisfaction here this evening. And again, I agree, there needs to be more collaboration and there needs to be a lot more mutual respect on both sides of the table here between the school department, school committee, and the city council. If this doesn't get, straightened out soon, then there may be some lawsuits coming down the road. And I want to try to avoid that, because the only other budget that I can think of that's worse than this one was sometime in the early 90s when I first got on the budget. And the Carullo Act was being thrown around like it was nothing. That was being threatened left and right. And I believe there was either one or two lawsuits that actually went forward and we eventually settled out. So, I mean, those situations were pretty poor. This is even worse, I think. But I'm flexible to what's coming out because the options are limited. So I am open-minded to this particular amendment, at least in my opinion, at this point in time. So, we'll see where it goes as we go forward here.
Thank you, Counselor. I'll weigh in. Superintendent Buck, I'm glad you stayed around. So Councilor Wildenhain is right. You've got a monumental task in front of you. We have a monumental task in front of us. We have to work collaboratively. I mentioned that when you were here for the budget workshop. I think you understand after seeing this tonight in action, we are all behind the schools. We are also behind the taxpayers. That is our primary responsibility. So we are pledging to work with you, but there needs to be the reciprocal attitude. And I truly think you are the man for the job. So I'm looking forward to that. We've heard now for a number of years, level funded us, level funded us. Let me just dispel this once and for all. Yes, in 2019, when fiscal 20 was being built, we went up by $1.6 million to $32.8 million. City's contribution has indeed stayed at $32.8 million for each of the next couple of years. Over that same time, state aid has increased by $26.3 million. It is kept almost dollar for dollar with what each budgeting request from the Pawtucket School Department has been. And if you have any question about that, how else would they have amassed a $15 million surplus? How else would they have amassed an 8.5 surplus in fiscal 24 that just closed 11 months ago? 8.5 million. So instead of looking at the middle line of who's contributing what, instead of this city contribution and lamenting 32.8, 32.8, 32.8, look at this. 87.5 state contribution, 92.6, 95.8, 98.9, 106.9, 108.4, and this year 114.5. So forget this line. Look at this line. The bottom line of all of the revenue coming into the school department has been just about exactly what they asked for in their budget. So don't tell me we've level funded. No, collectively, the taxpayers of the state and the city have increased by $26.3 million. You need to do better with what you have and not squirrel it away and tell us you can't touch it. So that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter what this line is. It matters what this line is. Should we be complaining that the state has treated us like the distressed community is that it has identified us as? Should we be complaining that we got the 125 million we asked for, 144 million we asked for? Should we be complaining that it wasn't the person on Monticello Road or Powell Road or Armistice Boulevard that didn't pony up a little bit more? Should we be complaining about that? So I, for one, am tired of hearing level funded if you're looking at this line instead of this line. So, and again, I am a product of Pawtucket schools. I have a wife and a daughter who both teach in Pawtucket schools. They would give both of their arms to help the students they teach. I'm very proud of both of them. I'm extremely proud of my daughter after 7 years of teaching at Tolman. I loved every minute I spent at Tolman. Tolman is not the school I went to. She works tirelessly, as do everybody else over there. And I'm sure we heard from the two individuals who spoke that were both social emotional. They were social workers, right? That they left.
Yes.
Yes, they were there.
Exceptional, right? Exceptional dialogue. Mr. Beaupre, exceptional dialogue, but we still have a different role to fulfill. And I will be voting yes for this. Again, level funding, it is still going to be about what they asked for if they're not penciling in the requested amount to go directly to reserves. So I will be voting for this amendment, and the clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
No.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
No.
Council Scoviac.
No.
Council Wilderness.
Yes.
6-3.
Okay, so 6-3 doesn't cut it. We need 8.
We
Right.
need 8 on the budget. I don't know if we need 8 on the amendment.
Well, it's,
Yeah, because you're
Yeah,
going over the
usually-
levy, of course you
we're
do.
going over the levy.
You'll
Yeah,
need, you'll need 8 on the budget for the 8, but to make
But
amendments
this is to
within.
amend the budget.
well,
It was
again,
amending the budget.
it's semantics. If we move forward with the amendment passing and now it's on as amended, the answer is going to be no, right? I mean, we're spinning our wheels to call that a successful
There's
amendment. There were 3 no votes, so it's 6-3.
Yeah, I don't see how that would be, because we're amending the budget to go over the cap, and we got 3 people that said no, so it
But when you
doesn't.
vote on budget as amended, I think that's where you need the 8, if I'm not mistaken. But
Well, we don't want to get ourselves in a world of hurt on that either.
Do you agree, Michelle?
At this point, so there's, you just get the,
Okay, then in that case, the amendment passes. And
on-
I will entertain a motion to approve the budget as amended.
that's my guess. I'm not telling you, I know.
Then
this.
moved
I
by,
did
then moved
check.
by Council Moreno, seconded by Council Moran, that we approve the budget as amended,
You need 8 for that.
for which we need 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
The clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
No.
Council Moran.
yes.
Council Moreno.
Yes.
Council Rubio.
no.
Council Scoviac.
No.
Council Wilderness.
Yes.
6-3.
So it fails
Failed.
for lack of 8
Correct.
votes.
Correct.
Okay, we are now back to square one. Council, do you have an
I
amendment
would like to
proposal?
amend the proposal to include the 500,000. Contingent, I'm sorry, can I make a contingency?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure
Okay.
amendment.
All right. Contingent upon a report, a collaborative report with the city council quarterly to see how it's doing, what it's invested in, and how it's just overall, how it's doing.
Is that $500,000 one time in this budget, or is that $500,000 as maintenance of effort?
One time, and then we could revisit the following year.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we go up to the same number the mayor proposed,
Correct.
but that the $500 not be considered maintenance of effort, that it be considered a one-time grant of some sort?
Contingent upon a
That would-
collaborative report
Yeah.
of some
A
sort
a
that we,
comprehensive report of what that 500,000 was used for? Is that what
Correct.
you're suggesting?
correct.
And did you, I'm sorry,
The council-
did you second that? Let me just get a
I second that.
You could say, okay, so that motion made by Counselor Rubio, second by Counselor Stagoviak. Did you have something you want to add, Counselor?
Yes, talking with the finance director, that has to come in the form of a grant in order for it not to count against the MOE.
Yes, so I think we just established that, we used that word, didn't we, when I mentioned the,
No, but I could establish that MOE.
Well, no,
No,
I've
no,
got.
not
As an
grant.
MOE?
As a
No.
grant.
Oh, as a grant, I'm sorry.
MOU.
MOU. Why, who said MOE?
I did say MOE.
I've got it as a
Stop
one-time
messing with my
grant of
amendment.
$500,000 with quarterly reporting on how it's
Okay,
being
now.
used. Is
Correct.
that
just
correct?
1 second, yes. So I would suspect that would have to be
MOU.
done through an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the school department. Okay, so if we can entertain this motion, okay? If it passes, it will simply have to be contingent upon a signed MOU before second passage a couple weeks from now.
Correct.
Is that, okay, everybody understands?
To
the parameters there?
establish a more collaborative, I don't know,
A
Gotcha.
dialogue.
dialogue.
Okay. Before Mark's finger falls off, Counselor.
Sorry,
Rubin.
Mark.
No more. Could we have the finance director come up and turn around and let us know the stage of how that's going to work before we vote on it? That it's a member of understanding, but it's got to be in the form of a grant, because I don't want nobody
Yo,
coming
we-
back to
that's-
us later.
That's what the motion says. The motion says a grant, a one-time grant that has with it the requirement to, but all I'm suggesting is I don't know that we need it, because what this ultimately does is it puts the numbers right back to, Yep. okay, but it doesn't affect any of the rates.
It'll go back to the original proposed budget rate.
Right, so,
I
so
have-
we are not amending. There we go.
Okay.
There's your
I'll-
savings,
I'll tell the taxpayers.
two-headed penny.
I have a question about the grant.
It's
If
your
it-
grant.
I know, I understand that, but if it's a grant, can they utilize it to however they want? I just want to
Yes,
make sure
that'll-
that
that'll
there's
be-
no requirements to that grant.
That would be
Okay.
in the MOU. It will
Okay.
ultimately
Well, I
will
just want to
accomplish through
ensure
the
that,
MOU exactly what you are asking. If we get 8 votes for this, it will accomplish exactly what you're suggesting.
got it.
Which globally is,
The taxpayer.
we put the 500,000 back in. It is not necessarily going to be there the following fiscal year. They get it. They would just have to report back to us comprehensively what they did with that and how it was effective. You know, I think it's a good idea after listening to Counselor Rougeau, you know, daily almost, you know, in his efforts on the cab, you know, we all know the schools are struggling, right? But so are the taxpayers, right? So we all know the schools are struggling. We know there's a particularly strong struggle being waged at Slater. You know, Councilor Rougeau, I don't want to speak for him, but has been talking
I'll talk
for
about it
weeks
about it.
now about the need in the middle schools, right?
Yeah.
And particularly Slater. So perhaps, not that we would necessarily in the MOU earmark it for that, but you know, I think the superintendent is out there listening. I think he would understand exactly that 500 is an olive branch, and that we just want to make sure it's properly administered. Is that pretty much your point?
Yes, and just again, establishing a foundation for collaboration and dialogue. and seeing if it works. If it doesn't, set us up, have these discussions for next year, that kind of thing.
I'm gonna go to Council Scoviac first.
Obviously, I'm seconding this, and I echo Councilor Rubio. For me, I want them to use every dollar possible towards the kids. So the reporting, when it comes to the 500,000, can it be even more collaborative and like really get us involved in understanding? Obviously, we have nothing to do with how they spend the money, but I would like to have that collaboration and understand how they're going to be using their surplus, what they're doing in the next year before our next budget, not just on this 500,000.
Well, I think we've already established that we would like to create a more
Dialogue.
free dialogue. And we had that conversation when they were here for the budget workshop. So I think the message is there. And as I said, I think Superintendent Buck is the man for the job. And I think we can maybe leave a little bit more to his discretion, with the understanding that we'd like to see more collaboration, more elaboration.
And we want
on
you to
everything.
win. A thriving school department, thriving children, that's our future. You're right. And everyone agrees on that. So as little as it may be, it's big for us in this time. And I just want to make sure that you guys are also successful.
So this is contingent of them signing the MOU. So if we approve this and get the 8 votes on this, this is contingent of them signing that. I mean, where's the guarantee on that? I know we're doing a lot of talk
Well, I
here
would-
and stuff.
I would-
I
I
mean,
would
this seems very speculative,
So I would assume that we would get an MOU. I mean, I don't imagine they're going to turn down $500,000 because they're not sure to get it the next year. I don't know who would turn that down,
So that'll turn into 15,500,000, right? I'm being funny.
No, you're not.
Not funny,
Not funny.
dinosaur.
Yeah. So I have to believe that we would be able to come up with a workable MOU. If we weren't, instead of having second passage, we'd have to revisit this issue. And, I mean, I can't imagine they would say, no, we don't want the extra $500,000. But because it's not built into MOE. But I'm sorry, Counselor.
That's okay. So I appreciate what your motion is, Councilor Rubio. You're achieving something that, I spoke to Councilor Wildenhain and President Mercer, about the middle schools, wanted to give at least something if we could, but I really didn't want to go over the cap, but it's a tough situation. But being on the cab, I saw what was going on there. So it's up to the discretion of the committee, what they do with that money. But what I like about your motion is it helps stop that dialogue early, what I explained earlier. We all know how important a good school system is to a town. We also know there are a lot of people struggling out there. It's not just the property owners, it's the renters. People can't afford the rents that are out there. Okay? So when you go up on taxes and the property owners, some property owners will, I never did, but some property tax people will go up on their rents. And so it's a balance, but I think this serves a dual purpose because, up to the superintendent and the school committee, they can do whatever they want to do with that money. Hopefully, I'm quite sure they're going to do some good with it, and then we can have those dialogues. So I thank you for that motion, and I'll support it.
Councilor Gregor?
Yes, yeah, thank you for coming up with that as well, but we just kind of back to square one, in that instead of the 500 that was allocated in the initial mass plan, now you're making it contingent with strings attached as to that 500,000. We're still going to be over the cap, right?
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
Correct.
So
the original amount, Counselor. So basically, it's going to be the same amount as originally
6.36.
proposed. Yeah, it was proposed by the mayor.
Yeah,
That we would be there.
yeah.
Except that allocation will be there.
The allocation will be there, but it will be more of a grant. So this way we can start dialogue.
But the allocation already was there. Now you just made it.
No, they
string
had amended
attached.
it.
We had,
Okay.
You just voted.
Mhm. Yeah. And also, just so I'm clear, now, we keep talking about $15 million reserve for the school. However, from what I understand, I think at least 4.2 million of that is self-funded by the school for medical purposes, right? Medical reserves, they don't really have 15 million.
Well, the medical reserve, that was when they were self-paying. And Gene could, the director could explain that a little better, but that's an account now that they don't have to utilize. I think whenever they close out this audit, is that accurate? Chair?
I think so.
Yeah, so there's gonna be money in there that they don't have to spend on medical. I mean, I think it's not closed yet, so, but I know it's close. That's what we've been told. At least, am I correct with that, Chair?
According to the finance director, that, you can't hear it, that once it's closed out, that money will be available to them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but I thought it was allocated for medical reserves.
But
It's not allocated. It was, but at this point, after the thing, it becomes money since they're, as he said, as they're self-insured.
Yeah, I believe you can remove that money. It's not, the capital reserve is a different type of restriction where it has to be for facilities. Well, and part of what we were trying to work with when we were collaborating was to get some of that money from that restricted fund and put it towards a debt service because that qualifies for it. And we could have put it towards a debt service for the city, and then we could turn around and give them, incremental amounts to
Back into their operational.
which would be
operational fund.
unrestricted, and they could use it for whatever they need.
Correct.
So that's what we were trying. They were utilizing it for the purpose of it, to pay off some of that debt service for the construction and rehabs of the school buildings.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I could, Mr. President, I know you're doing
Go ahead.
something. I just want to add in that, I mean, I think this is great discussion and everything, but it just seems to me, and again, I'm flexible with this and voting on this when it comes up, but it seems like we're tying in money, like $500,000, so that we can open up dialogue with the department that should be happening from day one. That should have been happening a long time ago when you already outlined what's taken place in the last 3 weeks. Not that I want to rehash that, but I mean, that's what we're supposed to have, is open dialogue with the school department, the school committee, but it seems like we're tying an amount of money in that now to make sure we're having dialogue. So I just don't want to give the wrong message out. Again, I'm open to this. I'm not saying I'm voting no, but I just don't like the whole situation to a certain extent. But
Well, I'd say you're 100% right. Especially after what I explained happened in the last 3 weeks. It's tough. It's tough to have some faith. But the last proposal was not going to carry the day. If this proposal doesn't carry the day, remember I said we put a pin in it and we have to revisit the other one? That's where we have to go. We have to go back to the cut 500, cut 5%, cut 100 here, 100 there, 100 there, 100 there, right? So that's where we need to go. So I'll just weigh in. I'm fine with the proposal. I'm sure we can come up with some sort of workable MOU. If we can't, that probably plays right into your concerns, Counselor. Having said that, before we vote on this, because this will essentially put us a few pennies here and there, from what Janine tells me, back to the number that was originally proposed by the mayor. So to a certain extent, we spun our wheels here for 3 or 4 hours and accomplished nothing, but at least we all felt each other out, and we had to do that to get to 8 votes, right? So we didn't really spin our wheels. We haven't talked about this aspect of it, but it's probably the proper time to talk about it now, because this will ultimately set the residential and commercial and tangible and non-owner occupied now tax rate if we approve this. So just the only anomaly here, again, other than surpassing the cap and needing 8 votes, is this is the first time we've been asked to add a non-owner occupied tax rate for multifamily homes, 2 and 3 families, right? So essentially what we're doing, we would be taking about 2,200 or so,
2,200. I thought that was the number.
okay, 2,200 or so 2 and 3 family residences that we believe to be non-owner occupied. And I think the only way we could get to that number was to determine which of those homes had the tax bill sent elsewhere than that, right? So it could be somebody is an owner occupied person, but has their tax bill sent to a PO box. So there could be.
That also covers a single family that's being rented out, not owner occupied. So if it's, you're saying 2 and 3, and I wanted to confirm,
I thought it said multifamily. No?
it says multifamily, but it's non-owner occupied. So if a single family is owned by someone else and they don't live there and they rent it out,
Okay.
that is non-owner occupied.
And that applies to this.
Yes,
I'm
yes, it
assuming
does.
that's on the far low end of the scale, right? We're talking predominantly about 2 and 3 family houses. But I get it. I believe it was only owner occupied. But here's my point. If we vote for this and the numbers stay as they were for a 6.36% increase, it increases multifamilies about $33 a month. And looks like single families, $22 a month.
Non-owner or owner?
Nope, I'm just,
Non-owner.
no, I'm owner occupied.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm not gonna bother with the single family non-owner, but the multifamily non-owner would increase to an average of $85 a month. So you take, and what I've got here are 3 family averages, right? So this is an 80, huh?
85 a month.
85 a month. Divide that by 3 floors for a non-owner occupied, right? It's $28 a month increase to the landlord who doesn't live there. And I know when this was first proposed, it was before surpassing the cap, so that was the hot topic, right? Now, this is no longer the hot topic, but I just wanted everybody to understand that that's $28 per unit per month. And the big hue and cry we heard when it was proposed was rents are just going to go up. Well, $28 per floor versus $22 per single family owner occupied. It's just about a wash. And you have to wonder if a non-owner occupied landlord were to increase somebody's rent by $100 a month to cover a $28 a month increase, there's a problem there, and something else should be done there. Just wanted to put that out there because we had not talked about that. So now, are we any further discussion on the amendment? And I'm going to just reiterate the amendment for Rick's purposes. I saved you, Rick. Just to reiterate, this is a motion to keep the same dollar amount increase, but switch the $500 to schools, $500,000 to schools to a $500,000 grant with contingent upon an MOU with some good faith reporting on comprehensive reporting on
Did you want quarterly? 'Cause
how
you
it was
mentioned
used.
quarterly.
Yeah, he
So I-
did.
I mean, it could be
Quarterly,
6
weekly,
months,
yeah, yeah.
6
Well,
months.
just-
I don't
just
want
give me
to,
something to put in the
6
amendment.
months. 6 months is good.
Yeah, let's go
I mean, quarterly for
You know,
500,000?
6 months is too long.
Superintendent, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you like to come up and answer that question? Are you good? Would quarterly reporting on that 500,000 work? Or if you'd like to ask the finance chair to come up? No. No. Honestly, Superintendent, I don't want to put you on the spot. We're trying to figure out a good faith effort of giving you department $500,000. And we're asking for a little bit of reporting. Don't want to make your job any tougher.
Yeah. And so I want to say thank you for your efforts tonight. It's clear that you all are working hard. And you do have my commitment to be that collaborator that you asked for. But with that said, I am just as equal of a collaborator with my 7 bosses. And so obviously prior to making any decision, I'd have to have that discussion with them. But in regards to the collaboration, just know that it's evident it will definitely happen. So
Appreciate hearing that.
thank you.
And again, I think you can appreciate, we have anguished over this for a month. Some of us longer, some of us harder. But we are committed to Pawtucket. We are committed to Pawtucket residents, and we're committed to Pawtucket school children. So please take that from here. And as it turns out tonight, it's a win for you, right? You're exactly where the mayor had proposed you would be. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
All right, so a one-time grant affecting the tax rate as we expected, with quarterly reporting on
And a signed MOU.
contingent upon a signed MOU by second passage.
By second passage? Okay.
Well, don't we need that by that? Can we? All right. I'm sure we can get that worked out. I saw Frank here earlier. I'm sure he can speak with Billy Conley about. Yeah. Did I wake you up, Frank? Could you wake me up?
And please don't forget that the
Oh, yeah, we're
meeting's
not
been
done.
moved up too. Yeah.
Oh,
And
my
the meeting, and the meeting's gonna be
Okay,
moved up,
in
right,
that
President?
case, clerk will call the roll. I'm sorry.
So one thing, and just remember, if we're gonna get this MOU before, our meeting's been moved up, well, will be voted on and moved up, right? On that?
Yes.
Yes, so it's gonna
June
have, this
4th.
is very time sensitive, okay?
Frank, by June 4th, please.
Council Milos appreciates the added
Time sense-
workload on his short staff.
Time sensitive.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, the amendment.
This is on the amendment.
This is on the amendment.
Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
No.
Council Moran.
Begrudgingly, yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-1.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Council Wildenhain.
So now we're gonna vote on the.
Okay, now
budget, right?
voting on the budget as amended. Is there any discussion? I'm sure. Yes?
You're the one that took up half of this meeting and you're looking at me like I got a problem.
Yeah, you talked a lot too.
I don't like people when people, I've got some comments that I prepared that I'd like to read before we end up passing the budget.
Okay.
As this
Wait,
budget,
I don't know that we got a motion in a second.
you said you asked for discussion. If there was any discussion.
Yeah, my bad.
Okay, then,
Okay, now, motion by Councilor Rubio, seconded by Councilor Stakoviak,
Stakoviak.
that we approve the budget as amended. Any discussion?
yeah. As we began the budget negotiations, I approached this process with the hope and optimism that all elected officials of Pawtucket would come together and address the significant responsibilities before us. We are elected to serve as problem solvers, not create additional challenges. And yet, once again, we find ourselves facing a lack of collaboration and the difficult realities that come from an unwillingness to engage in creative and collectively in service to our constituents. President Mercer has rightly stated over several occasions that we must move beyond the us against them mentality and work in partnership to solve the city's most pressing issues. The mayor's proposed budget enables us to meet the immediate fiscal obligations and begin preparing a difficult budget cycle ahead, a challenge that none of us take lightly. I believe I speak for my colleagues when I say that none of us take pleasure in the idea of exceeding the tax cap. However, we are faced with limited options in addressing the city's current fiscal obligations. Bond payments are due, and we must fulfill them while continuing to run a city of over 70,000 residents. Upon thorough review of the mayor's budget, it is clear that there is little room for significant cuts, and I commend him for presently and fiscally sound proposal. Nonetheless, we remain committed to exercising our responsibility to the taxpayers with diligence and care. Before I present the budget for passage, I would like to acknowledge several individuals who contributed to the whose contributions were instrumental throughout this process. Acting Finance Director Janine Borski, Jennifer Legner, and the entire Finance Department deserve our sincere thanks for their consistent and reliable work in providing us with accurate data and fiscal insight. I want to recognize our department heads and the city employees who serve the people of Pawtucket with dedication every day. I also want to recognize Director Tracy Giron, deserves special recognition for her efforts to bring people together during this process. I believe this experience has offered her a deeper appreciation of the challenges city councilors face, and she has demonstrated strong leadership in her role as Director of Administration. While I may not express gratitude for the necessity of a budget increase, I do want to thank the mayor for his leadership and for consistently putting the needs of our city at the forefront of his decisions. Finally, I want to thank the members of council leadership. Council President Pro Tem Arujo consistently speaks with clarity and purpose, always considering the broader impact of his views. To Council President Mercer, though you never hesitate to point out when someone is wrong, you always make time to listen and support your colleagues in finding their way forward. Your leadership and unwavering commitment to the residents of Pawtucket make me proud to serve under your guidance, not just as our president, but as a valued friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor.
If I could real quick.
Sure.
I mean, after all is said and done, and again, I want to thank everyone that, worked on the budget, certainly Janine and everybody in the finance department, the mayor, all of the department heads, certainly all the employees that work for the city. We're really put in a no-win situation this evening. I mean, there was just no win either way. And I hate to say we've used a lot of cliches this evening, but I'll just leave you with this. And again, I haven't heard this one in a while, but you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So, I mean, it's just no way to win in this one. So we're doing the best we can. We're doing the right thing, I think. I mean, because there's just not much to choose from. So again, we're trying, it's a balancing act. We're not jugglers, but we try to do the best we can. So again, I want to thank everybody involved in this evening for the budget. So thank you.
You didn't just come up with that, Dan, if you do, Jen, if you don't, that wasn't yours?
No, I don't think so. I'd have to check the book on that. I might have used that back in '92. I don't know.
Counselor Ruja.
Yeah, I know it's late, but I just want to thank everybody involved. The finance director, director of administration, Tracy, everybody involved. President Mercer for your work and on this, the finance committee as well. But really, Council Wildenhain, as chair of the finance committee, you have a tremendous task ahead of you every year that you are the chair. And I've never seen anybody work so hard and go through numbers as you have and come up with scenarios to do the best you can on behalf of the taxpayers and the residents of Pawtucket. So I applaud your hard work. And, even though, the first thing wasn't passed through, the effort was there. So thankful for that. Thank you for your leadership.
So I'll kind of reiterate everything, starting with the finance chair. We could not have a stronger advocate, and he puts himself down all the time. He gets the numbers right. He understands the circumstances. He understands the ramifications. He does his damnedest for about a 6-week span. He's huddled over a book this big. He's huddled over 2 or 3 of these, highlighting things, not because he likes it. Matter of fact, he hates it. It's a commitment to the taxpayers of this city. And I don't know what we do without him pointing out all of the things and working hard. On the other hand, I'm sure Janine would wish he would just go away. So
This is true.
he has tortured her for the last couple weeks, and Janine, we appreciate everything you've done, getting us all of the numbers on a second's notice and spreadsheets and all the rest, and helping us understand. When we did meet with the school committee leadership, I referenced the fact that all the numbers came from your department because they were looking at Mo, Larry, and Curly when it came to that. So we appreciate everything you've done. The department heads, we know it's going to be a tough 12 months for you. We appreciate everything. And I would like to just echo everything Counselor Wildenhain said about the Director of Administration. Tracy, you've done an excellent job. You're growing into the role. We appreciate you. We appreciate your collaborative effort, and keep up the good work. With that, on the budget as amended, clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
No.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-1.
The Finance Committee returns the following ordinance. Capital Budget Ordinance 2025, 2026. For first passage, as amended?
Nope.
Okay. For first passage.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Wildenhain, second by Counselor Moran, that approval be given to the capital budget ordinance for 25-26. This is first passage on a roll call vote. Is there any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor. Council Gregor.
I'm sorry, which resolution was it?
Capital Budget.
Four. It's the capital budget, first
ordinance.
passage.
Before.
You okay with that?
You have to review it?
No.
No.
Yes, no, maybe?
Maybe.
Yes.
Okay. Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno.
Yes.
Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
9-0.
Item number 5 is a resolution approving the 2024 Pawtucket Central Falls multi jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. I call for approval on a roll call vote.
Second.
Been moved by Council Moreno, second by Council Wildenhain, that approval be given to a resolution approving the 2024 Pawtucket Central Falls Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Motion is for approval, excuse me, on a roll call vote. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno.
Yes.
Council Rubio. No. Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-0.
Item number 6, a communication from His Honor Mayor Donald R. Grebian to the honorable members of the Pawtucket City Council submitting the following appointment as a member of the Pawtucket Water Supply Board for confirmation. Pawtucket Water Supply Board, Robert E. Benson, 35 Lloyd Phillips Court, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 02861. Term expires on the first Monday of January 2029 to fill the unexpired term of Thomas E. Hodge. I make a motion to approve on a roll call vote.
Been moved by Council Rubio, second by Council Moreno, that a communication from His Honor Mayor Donald R. Grebian to the honorable members of Pawtucket City Council submitting the following appointment as a member of the Pawtucket Water Supply Board. Robert E. Benson, 35 Lloyd Phillips Court, for a term that expires the first Monday in January of 2029. This is to fill the unexpired term of Thomas E. Hodge. The motion is for confirmation on a roll call vote. Any discussion, Councilor?
Mr. President, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the fact that Mr. Benson is filling the unexpired term of Tom Hodge, former council, as we know. I served with Tom for many, many years. And again, he was a staple on that water supply board. I mean, he was on there for many, many years. So I did want to at least single him out and thank him for his service on the board.
Duly noted. Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer,
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno.
Yes.
Council Scoviac.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-0.
Number 7 is a communication from His Honor Mayor Donald Grebian to the honorable members of the Pawtucket City Council submitting the following reappointment as a member of the Historic District Commission for confirmation. Jason Bacon, P.E., 143 Parkside Avenue, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 02861. The term expires the first Monday in February 2028. I call for approval on a roll call vote.
Second.
Sorry. So moved by Councilor Wildenhain, second by Councilor Ruzo. Communication from His Honor Mayor Donald Grebian to the honorable members of the Pawtucket City Council submitting the following reappointment as a member of the Historic District Commission. Jason C. Bacon, P.E., 143 Parkside Avenue, for a term that expires the first Monday in February of 2028. Motion is for approval on a roll, confirmation on a roll call vote. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer,
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno.
Yes.
Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
9-0.
Number 8, resolution changing the date of the city council meeting scheduled for Wednesday, June 11th, 2025 to Wednesday, June 4th, 2025 to complete the budget process in a timely manner. Motion to approve the resolution on a roll call vote.
The move by Councilor Moran, seconded by Councilor Codere, that a resolution changing the date of the city council meeting scheduled for Wednesday, June 11th, 2025 to Wednesday, June 4th, 2025 to complete the budget process in a timely manner. Motion is for approval on a roll call vote. Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer,
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
9-0.
Item number 9 is a resolution proclaiming the month of May to be Lupus Awareness Month in the city of Pawtucket. I call for approval on a roll call vote.
Second.
A move by Councilor Moran, second by Councilor Moran, that approval be given to a resolution proclaiming the month of May to be Lupus Awareness Month in the city of Pawtucket. Any discussion on this? Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer,
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
9-0.
And number 11, an ordinance repealing and replacing the, what?
Oh, you
Who's
jumped
at
over.
10? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
jumped over.
Over me?
Sorry, I
Come
was
on now.
waiting. I didn't hear anything.
Don't forget.
Item
Mayor.
number 10, a resolution welcoming Mayor Gustavo Perez Giraldo and Senior Advisor Marlon Contreras from our sister city Arjona, Colombia, to the city of Pawtucket. I move to approve on a roll call vote.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Rubio, seconded by both Councilor Ruzo and Councilor Moreno, that approval be given to a resolution welcoming Mayor Gustavo Perez Giraldo and Senior Advisor Marlon Contreras from our sister city, Arjona, Colombia, to the city of Pawtucket. Motions for approval on a roll call vote. Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer,
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
9-0.
Number 11, an ordinance repealing and replacing the schedule of pay rates for local 1012 and -8812 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket, 1996, correction of pay schedule rates. For a second passage.
Yes.
Moved by Councilor
Second.
Wildenhain, second by Councilor Stakoviak, that an ordinance repealing and replacing the schedule of pay rates for local 1012 and section 88-12 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket, 1996, regarding a correction and schedule of pay rates. This is for second passage on a roll call vote. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer.
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Kubiak.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
9-0.
Number 12 is an ordinance repealing and replacing the schedule of pay rates for local 1012 and 88-12 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket, 1996, reclassification of Accountant 2, Substitute A for second passage. I call for approval on a roll call vote.
Moved by Council Willen, second by Council Moreno, that an ordinance repealing and replacing the schedule of pay rates for local 1012 and section 88-12 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Pawtucket, regarding a reclassification of Accountant 2. This is a substitute A for second passage on a roll call vote. Is there any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer,
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Scoviac.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
8-0.
Number 13 is an ordinance repealing and replacing the schedule of pay rates for local 3960 in 88-12, the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pawtucket, 1996, reclassification, senior appraisal technician / tangible property specialist. I call for approval on a roll call vote for second passage.
Second.
Moved by Council, excuse me, Council Willen, second by Council Moreno. An ordinance repealing and replacing the schedule of pay rates for local 3960 in section 88-12 of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Pawtucket, 1996, regarding a reclassification, senior appraisal technician, tangible property specialist for second passage. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
President Mercer,
Yes.
Council Ruzo.
Yes.
Council Codere.
Yes.
Council Gregor.
Yes.
Council Moran.
Yes.
Council Moreno. Council Rubio.
Yes.
Council Scoviac.
Yes.
Council Wildenhain.
Yes.
9-0.
But wait, there's more. No.
Oh my God.
Don't you have a dissertation to give?
Yeah, yeah. No, no further business coming before the Pawtucket City Council. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Moved by Council Ruzo.
Oh, come on.
Seconded by everybody.
No,
That
let's
we
stay.
adjourn.
I
All
want to
in favor?
stay.
Aye. Motion carries.
Oh, bye-bye, everybody.
We are adjourned.